at our new hours. This is the Board of Architectural Review and Historic Preservation, and today is Monday, May 9th, and it is now 6 o'clock. We are starting at this hour going forward. And since we assume everybody's gotten the notice, but if somebody isn't here when we call, we'll give them the benefit of the doubt and recall them at the end of the agenda for each segment. So by way of introduction, my fellow board members are Peter DeWitt, Sarah Latham, John Gregory, Mark McIntyre, they're all here. And so I move that we open this meeting. Second by John, and all in favor? Aye. So you folks are here for the next 2 to 3 hours, I would think. And joining us, our council, Alice Cooley, our village planner, Alex Wallach, our recording secretary, Anthony Edwards, and our videographer, Kat Stein. We'll begin with approving the minutes. There were 3 carryovers. That of March 28th. Has everybody had a chance to read that? We're all good with it? Okay, I move that we accept that into the record. A second on that from someone, from Peter. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. The next is April 11th. The same drill. Has everybody read it? Good. I move then that we accept those into the record, seconded by Sarah. All in favor? Aye. And finally, the minutes, the most recent meeting of April 25th. I know there was edits. I think I didn't read the redraft, but I assume they all got in. So we're all good with that. Yep. Great. So I move that we accept those into the record. All in favor? Aye. Mark seconded. Okay, great. There are no written decisions for this evening, so we can go right into the meat of our agenda. The first application is that of 39 Lewis Street at 39 Lewis Street. Exterior alterations in dwelling. Is the applicant either here in person or on the ether? Pat, do you see any hands up?
I do.
Okay.
Allie Hampson, is he in this matter? Yeah.
I don't know who's representing. I know Jim Hausman has been on before. He's the property owner. But I don't know who's representing him this evening.
Okay.
Anybody there for 39 Lewis LLC?
Second, you have to come in.
And again, if not, we'll call that application at the end of this section. Any hands raised? Kat?
I just had Allie Hampson and
That'll be for 30.
So that doesn't look like.
That'll be for 135.
okay, so I don't know.
Okay, all right, so.
It's fine, I'll put him back.
Okay, we'll push that to the end. Folks, remind me if I forget, okay? For a recall on 39. 39. Okay. Second is One Hampton Road, J and H. And I don't know if a representative is here. I'll ask Alex if the representative is here, please raise your hand. If not, Alex, tell us where you think that is in terms of them getting a review of the procedure.
If the applicant isn't here, I'll mention that I did speak to the applicant's representative and communicated the board's wishes to them about having a consultant produce a building report on this. They did understand that. They said they were going to talk to the owner and get back to us. And that was where we left that conversation.
Great. So I move that we adjourn the application of One Hampton Road for our next meeting so that they can complete their file. Do I have a second on that? Second by John Gregory. All in favor, aye. And vote on that. Thank you, folks. That's adjourned. The next application is Daniel Brockett at 292 Ox Pasture Road. A two-story dwelling and attached garage and an accessory structure. And let's see. Okay. All right, folks, I've been a couple of sessions. So please reintroduce yourself and then we'll go from there.
Good evening, Lori Fontana from McDonough and Conroy Architects. I'm representing Dan and Linda Brockett.
Thank you, Lauren.
So we're back before you based on some of the comments and concerns that the board had. We did submit an extensive packet. We made several additional changes to accommodate the board and the neighbors. These include, among others, lowering the roof line and reducing roof line by 1 foot and reducing the length of the building by 3 feet. We also pushed the garage back and changed the roof line to address the comments that Peter had made. We thank the board for their suggestions, which improved the design of the house. My client would be happy to make any further changes within reason. If you would pull up the renderings.
Okay, so who and how do we have it? Is that?
They were sent in digitally.
No, I know we have.
I'm sorry.
The question is more procedural. Alex, do you have that on your screen? We can share from there and then or you can direct Alex to which renderings to show.
I'm sharing my screen of what's provided in the board's Dropbox, if that's helpful.
Great.
I just lost them.
Hang on, I just turned on the.
Okay, well, we got both screens going
Thanks,
now.
Pat.
Okay, so let's go back to the renderings first, if we could. So this is as you drive up the driveway and you turn in, we did push the garage back, we lowered the roof and, dropped it down and have dormers coming up out of it. We also did planting. It was, I guess, to some of the board members, it was offensive to see the garage so boldly. So we've done plantings to basically obscure and buffer it, but it was pushed back quite a few feet, close to 14. If you'll go to the rear.
Apologies, they may be in alphabetical order, but let me know when I should stop.
Right there. So on the rear, we changed the whole rear elevation to accommodate pushing the garage and lowering that second floor. The front looks slightly different with a lower roof line, and the garage roof is lower. The left side it has remained to look the same except for the lowering of the roof line. So if you'll go to its surrounding houses, please. Okay, so it was indicated that the house did not necessarily fit within the neighborhood. So we went online and we got copies of the elevations of all of the surrounding houses within a 1 block radius, which is the block that it's on. After extensive review, we came to the conclusion that the neighborhood has a rather eclectic style from Mediterranean to modern to typical shingle style. And since my client's, I'm sorry?
No,
Okay. Since my client proposed house is a shingle style, if you'll look at site number 2. So it's hard to see from that angle, but you guys have a closer up of it. the house does fit nicely into the neighborhood. It doesn't stand out as being offensive. It fits beautifully. So the other issue that you addressed was the mass and scale. So we did reduce the length of the house by the 3 feet we indicated, and we did drop the overall height of the house by 1 foot. These changes were specifically made at the suggestion of the board and the neighbors. We have been sensitive to the comments, and this is a much smaller house than my client is actually entitled to build under the zoning. So this is the aerial. If you look at the aerial, the renderings show that the house isn't overly large. No, back to where you were, I'm sorry. The house isn't overly large for the lot, as far as mass and scale is concerned. Then when we go to the landscape plan, which we did include, we also have the landscaping company here today. Is Steve here? Okay, so Steve is here from the landscaping company to explain the changes that were made to the landscape design.
Thank you.
Good evening, Steve Neroda with Aris Design, Landscape Architects in Southampton. We prepared this plan based on the comments that we've received from the board, and really the idea here is to create a mixed hedge, mixed evergreen screen approach around the perimeter of the property. Along the south side, you'll see we have a mix of 8 to 10 foot cryptomeria and 8 to 10 foot evergreen, green giant arborvitae. There are some, you can see on the lighter circles, there are existing trees along the south property line. Those are to remain. Underneath those, we plant viburnum. They'll get approximately 6 to 10 feet tall at maturity. They'll be good in the shadier parts of the property. We'll step that down with hydrangea, just ornamental interest. There's one area along that south property line that we were introducing 20-foot height cryptomeria. That would be sort of central to the house. If you're looking where the steps proceed south out of the house, those would be 20-foot height. And the idea there is to help augment and buffer the peaks of the house that Lori was just speaking about. We have another grouping of cryptomeria on the east property line, just to the east of the large maple that's to remain. Those will also be 20-foot height to help to augment the screening. We also have privet hedge on the north property line that would be set just to the south of existing privets that would be that are on the neighbor's property. And along the west property line, there's existing evergreen screening there the neighbors have that we're going to plant 10 to 12 foot privet along that property line as well. I believe there were comments about the area around the parking or the garage where we're proposing Nellie Stevens holly and cryptomeria that help kind of screen or buffer any cars that might be parked adjacent to the garage doors. And that's about it. And then also we introduced some canopy trees, river birch, crepe myrtle that we also set within that buffer, just to give some canopy throughout the season to help augment the screening as well.
I'm assuming, Lori and Steve, that the landscaping plan is being presented as an integral part of the approved plan.
Yes.
Okay. And I'm saying that for any board comments. Okay. If that's it, Lori.
No, sorry. So to reiterate, in the two areas, the south and the east property side, where the neighbors had concerns about the plantings, we did follow what was requested originally was the 20-foot cryptomerias that both neighbors had requested. We did leave the 4 trees that they had also requested. So as the board can see, these trees together with the other plantings complemented contemplated are more than reasonable, sufficient to provide a complete screening of the property from those of the concerned neighbors. This is above and beyond what is generally expected. So if you would go to the two plans that say neighbor and neighbor to the south and neighbor to or to the rear and to the east.
Sorry, I'm just looking for a plan that says that.
Yeah, let me see. Let me find it.
Maybe it's surrounding houses?
I think we saw surrounding houses, and that was the,
Oh, sorry.
Let's just, I'm not sure the exact location of these. Okay. So as you can see, the one shows the view that the neighbor from the rear will have, and one shows the two views that the neighbor from the east will have with the plantings that we're proposing. Does everybody see those? Okay. So we have taken into account, and we are trying to be as sensitive as possible to what, you know, the neighbor is going to see. So basically, the neighbor to the east is approximately, whoops, I'm sorry, is approximately 336 feet from where the back rear deck of my client's property away. And then the neighbor to the front west, I'm sorry, to the rear south is approximately 263 feet from the neighbor's property. Now, keep in mind that my client is trying to be a good neighbor and has taken extraordinary steps to accommodate everyone affected by the proposed house. We have cited the proposed house 13 feet further away from the neighbor to the west than the original house that was there. And we have put the house 5 feet further away from the neighbor to the south than the house that was originally on the property. The neighbors have asked my client if he could add the proposed screening before construction starts. And my client is open to the suggestion, but we do not have a well or other water sources to maintain the planting until construction is done. And we are, until we're connected to the village water line. Steve, is it possible that the plantings would not survive during construction if we were to do that?
No, we would recommend having water on them for sure. Yeah, that would not be wise.
Yeah, so, and the contractor is concerned about damages to the planting prior to the construction being finished.
I think, you know, in terms of what this board can and cannot do.
I'm just addressing all of the issues that were brought to us by the neighbors also.
Your client and the neighbors to be aware that the timing of construction is not something that's within our purview, oversight, or ability to inspect and enforce.
Thank you. I just wanted you to be aware that we are trying to be as respectful as possible to everyone concerned. I showed you the images of what the neighbor's property would see from the back of the house. The next issue that was brought up was second-story decks. If you could bring up the image of second-story decks.
Did you want to put it on the table?
You could bring it up on the screen so that everybody can see.
just give me one moment.
Sure.
Is this the one you're looking for?
Yes. Okay, so the comment was made by both of the neighbors, the one to the west and the south, about their concern of having us having a second-story deck. Please be aware that both of those clients do have second-story decks, and not only do they have one of them have a second-story deck, but the client directly behind my client's property has a third-story deck. So I think that it's unreasonable to ask my client not to have a deck when all of the surrounding houses, literally, except for the house directly in front of us, has second-story decks. The one to the driveway side has an extensive second-story deck. So the sight lines from these decks into the client's property, and conversely, the sight lines from my client's deck into the property are extremely lengthy, which I had told you the distance of the property. And they pose no privacy issues whatsoever. With a distance of plus or minus 63 feet to the neighbor from the south side and 336 feet to the neighbor on the west side, these distances pose no privacy issue, especially when considered along with the proposed screening. No one will be able to see into my client's property, and my client will not be able to see into theirs. Even if the sight lines were cut in half, this is a complete non-issue when these facts are taken into consideration. Lastly, as stated previously, my client would like to know if the board has any other further architectural design suggestions that we have not already addressed regarding the plans presented for them today.
Thank you for offering the segue for me asking for comments from the board, and we'll go right to that. Mark, do you have any comments?
A couple. First of all, thank you. I appreciate you listening and bringing the house down and bringing the scale down. I think it's tremendous. I appreciate it. I just have 2 comments. On the second floor over the front door, there's sort of a quarter moon arched window that I think is probably not necessary. I just don't think that's in the back of this house. And my other question is on the pool house drawing. It looks different on the floor plan to me than this rendering, but the columns on the pool house look massive.
I think they're the same size. I think it's just because of the rendering. Yes, I think it's the perspective of the
I just
rendering.
want to ask.
100%, it's not going to be larger.
Yeah, because these look like twice the good. But other than that, I appreciate you making the house smaller, and I appreciate listening. Also, did the garage doors get shorter?
Yeah, I believe they went down with
Down
the,
to 12, down to 10 now?
yes, I think so.
Thank you for taking that.
John?
I agree. I think that it's a great change you've made since the last meeting. I just have a few questions. I just want to clarify that the terrace off the 1 bedroom, that doesn't really bother me because it's actually inside into the house. I don't think that's a privacy issue for anyone. But over the front door, that's not accessible. Is that
No,
just a flat roof?
It's 100% decorative.
So I just want to make sure I understood that. As far as the design of the house, I think it looks really, really nice. The only thing I have, and it's not like a deal breaker or anything, is that second railing above the front foyer. It just seems like, I mean, it's a handsome house actually. That somehow puts it a bit over the top with ornamentation. It just doesn't seem necessary. Yeah,
It's like a,
it's like a widow's walk that doesn't exist ever.
Right, it's, can I answer that question, or do you want me to wait till the end?
You know, let's get all the comments. And by the way, that is strictly decorative. There's no
100%
access to the,
decorative,
roof.
there's no way you can get onto it.
I agree with Mark that half fan over the second story window above the entrance doesn't really jive with the rest of the radiated windows. And I also think that the additional railing at the roof is extendable.
Okay, Peter?
I agree completely with the half moon and the railing. And I acknowledge the improvement in masking and lowering the garage eave and pushing back is a big difference. I think that the aerial
It's very helpful.
is
Yeah.
quite
Very
convincing. So those are my 2 little things.
So that the board is, seems to be in general consensus about those two issues. You're welcome to address them. I would add that if your client is willing to accept those changes, it sounds like you've got it in the queue.
Can I have Dan, who's online,
He
come in?
He has spoken before. Yes, he can introduce himself. And then we'll also hear from the public.
Right, I understand.
Right. You and Dan can address the concerns.
Lori, is it Dan or Nika?
It's
Okay.
Dan Brockett.
Is Nika with you, Lori?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, Jeff, we might have public comment
Okay,
after.
yeah. Nico is another applicant. It's Nico Roth. Different applicant. So is Dan coming in?
Yeah. You can see up there, I'm working. Where you click on it,
Oh, okay.
vote, but it's a little difficult tonight. This equipment is asking a lot of my computer. Here's Dan. Hi, Dan, you're in, start your camera and put your sound on. I'll send you.
Technology is great until it's not.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's Dan.
At least his chin,
Dan,
anyway.
read your screen.
Okay. Can you hear me and see me now?
Yes, yeah, just introduce yourself, Dan.
Yes. Hi, I'm Dan Brockett. I'm the owner of the property in question, and yes, we will be happy to make the changes, the additional changes that have been suggested by the board. All of the comments so far have been helpful, and I think they've helped the design of the house. And so we're happy to make those additional changes. And I don't know whether we adjourn and we come back with a new design in 2 weeks or how we proceed, but we're happy to make all of the suggestions that were offered by the board tonight. Thank you.
Okay, very much appreciated.
Mark just noticed that the rear of the house has the railing as well.
Rails
So
on
I
both.
assume you take both off. or-
Right, so let me explain why the railing's there to begin with. So in order to meet the code, I had to create a flat to then a pitched gable in the middle. So I put the railing up to obscure the flat. I don't know if that changes your opinion on the matter, and that was the reason why.
Doesn't change my opinion because I don't think you've noticed.
You're
That's right.
probably
I
right.
don't think you noticed.
You're not gonna be able to,
Yeah, the angle where you.
I just. think
Right.
What we were trying to do is bring the house. down this
I
road
get it, I get it.
So I think we just take those two rails off, it just brings it out a little bit more.
okay, so
And it's a pretty house.
So we're in agreement, we'll open it up to public, but
Comment, any public comment either here or on,
Chair, I have a Nika Strunk's hand up.
sorry, who?
I have Nika and I have CMAC's hands up.
Okay, yep, but they're, I know they've commented on this before, at least CMAC has. So, sure, admit them, Kat.
Would you like them one at a time or do you want both?
Antoinette, you do that while I do this. That sounds great.
Internet looks like an air traffic controller.
Jeff, did you want me to do one at a time or how do you do it here?
Yes, that would make the most sense.
There's a joke or something about it.
Okay, I'm bringing Nika in right now.
I heard that.
Okay, Nika, I just need you to unmute and put your camera on.
Hello,
Hello, Nika, introduce yourself, please.
Nika Strunk, Nika B. Strunk PLLC, 37 Windmill Lane, Southampton, for Marianne Ty, who is a principal of 3 LLCs that own 3 properties to the east of the applicant, and also for CMX Sammy, who is here tonight, and he will also speak on his own behalf. Few things. I do acknowledge that there have been some improvements to this, and I wanted to say we got for the first time this landscaping plan I just got it this morning and shared it with my clients. And they do have some, I think the 20-foot cryptomeria are appreciated, absolutely. They may have some requests regarding the placement. I think they're just particularly on the east side, there is a generator or some kind of equipment that creates a gap between Ms. Ty's house and this property, and there could be some reorientation or some movement of those proposed cryptomeria that would address that more effectively. So we'd like to have the opportunity, now that we've seen the plans, to talk to the applicant about that, to talk to perhaps his, maybe Ms. Ty's landscape architect might talk to Mr. Naroda. But that's something we'd like to be able to discuss with them. I was not able to see when there was something put on the table that seemed to show that the distance between my client's properties and the site. I'd like to be able to look at that. As far as I know, that wasn't part of the PDFs that were submitted and sent to us before this hearing, because I don't really know what they're measuring from and where they're measuring to. Obviously, there's a house on each of these properties, but there are also gardens. There are also many areas of the property where the property owners spend time outside, and the distance to those areas is also relevant. This is a very small lot, or at least this segment of the lot is a very small area where a rather large house is being placed. So I'd like to have the opportunity to review those calculations or the sight lines. I didn't see, unless I missed it, a line of sight analysis from what is going to be seen from the second floor decks, which continue to be of significant concern to my clients. I thought that the board had asked for a line of sight analysis from the deck, and I did not see that in the applicant's submission. So, and it was I hear you, Mr. Chairman, about this board's powers. To put in some screening prior to construction would really go a long way, given my client's experience with the way this property was effectively cleared entirely, and the front gates were badly damaged. That's what they've lived with so far. So to be able to have some protection during the construction process, and I'm not saying that it's within this board's power to do that. I'm not arguing that. I'm telling the applicant that would really be greatly appreciated. As far as the second floor decks on other properties, including Ms. Ty's house, that I believe, according to her, what she told me, was allowed after an extensive review was done of what she could see. In other words, the line of sight from her second story deck, which, because her property is much bigger, really infringed on no one else's privacy and had no impact. And she demonstrated that before she did it. But we haven't seen what is visible from this proposed second floor deck. So I really think that needs to be addressed, especially given the small size of this segment of the property that it's being built on. So those are my comments, and I'm sure that CMEC will add to that.
All right, thank you. We'll hear CMAC and then just make a comment, and the other board members can as well. So CMAC, you want to come in?
Yep. So I'm going to pull out Ms. Strunk, and then I'm going to bring in CMAC. Okay, CMAC, you're in. If you could unmute and put your camera on, that would be great.
Good evening, board members. Thank you for hearing me out. I'd like to first express my appreciation.
Just for protocol, introduce yourself, please.
Pardon me?
As a matter of protocol, just introduce yourself.
CMAC Sami, owner on 269 Great Plains Road. I'm the neighbor immediately to the south of this property. Based on what I've said in the past meetings and tonight, basically the crux of our concern is not the size of the house per se on its own, but its relationship to the size of the lot. Even though the house might be in line with some of the adjoining houses, but the relationship and scale of that to the size of the lot is our concern. And basically, even though per our zoning and because of the anomaly of this lot, they can build a scale of that nature on that lot, on this, what we call a dumbbell lot, basically. The focus has become now landscaping as to how we can protect visual sites on the periphery and in relationship to our neighbors. I appreciate the landscape plan that was submitted. I have still a concern. I have not had a chance to review it in detail. I just took a quick look at it. I was told that there's a number of larger trees being proposed on the south side. And my concern is that these 20-foot cryptomerias, I would like to have at least a line of them pertaining to the second-story living room window. As you know, on the floor plan, you can see that this is a two-story living room. And the second-story windows face directly onto our lot. I'd like to see if the landscaping and the larger trees could focus on screening of that window, because being that it's a two-story space, basically I'd be looking at a framed chandelier view all night long, with the light shining directly, lights of the chandelier shining right directly into my eyesight. So if some sort of a screening could be definitely focusing on that window. And the other option is also, rather than, and this is from a design perspective, it might actually benefit the owner, is that rather than having windows on the second level, is to lower that window and tie the design of those windows to the upper portion of the French doors of the living room, so that actually sitting in the living room, you would have more of a view of the sky rather than looking at the window on a second floor of a two-story space. That's basically the crux of my concerns, and I'll leave it to that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. CMAC is right to point out that this board under Chapter 65C-2 does have the ability to view a house in relation to the property itself and its surrounding property. But among the board members, that doesn't seem to be a concern to the extent to deny the application. At least I'm not hearing. Would the property, you like to see a smaller house? Most likely, but at least I haven't heard concern from the board that this scale rises to the extent that one would deny it. In as much as there is going to be a 2-week hiatus, if you will, or at least a chance for the neighbors to look at the landscaping plan. Mr. Brockett has expressed his interest in cooperating to the extent that one can and it's reasonable. That's fine. I would also like to point out that we try to accommodate the neighbors, but at the same time, neighbors nor this board can design somebody's house to the nth degree. But neighbors are neighbors, and good landscaping and good fences make good neighbors. So perhaps I leave it to Dan to get in touch with the neighbors, however you've been doing it before, okay? But currently, I don't hear the board members objecting to this landscaping plan. To the extent you can accommodate the neighbors, great, but again, it doesn't raise to the point, I believe, of denial. On the second floor deck, we are used to dealing with 30-foot separations, 15 feet on either side of a property. When it gets to the order of magnitude of 200 feet and 300 feet, essentially a football field, you know, the line of sight, the angle would have to, is so small that it's really not an issue, and I would not subject either the applicant or the applicant to do a line of sight study.
Well, in fact, the deck is so inset that I think it's even less of an issue in this
Yeah.
case.
So, and then as far as the windows and the lighting, it wasn't a major concern. Is there a lot of window on the back? Yes. Is it totally out of proportion? I haven't heard my other board members saying that it wasn't totally out of scale, so it was acceptable from that standpoint. And again, we're talking about a 200 to 300-foot separation and the laws in effect in terms of night sky lighting. So, we've heard from the public. We're not.
I think Alice, it's Alice.
Alice, I'm sorry, Alice.
I just wanted to mention that I checked my notes and the minutes, and I don't see that the board asked for a line of sight.
I don't believe.
Right, I don't think we did either.
256
So-
Main we did, I know, but not this one.
Thank you. So we've heard from the applicant, we've heard from the public, we've heard from the board. You've said it all, you've said a lot. So let's adjourn to the next meeting to answer Dan's question, because it's going to require some redrafting on the plan, even though it's a small change.
So to remove the elliptical and the railing on the roof.
Correct.
No problem.
Okay, great. And then, so we look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks, and then we'll go from there.
Thank you very much. to the
Okay,
board.
great. Thank you all. I move that we accept the applicant's request to adjourn. Second by John Gregory. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Okay, great. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. All right. Bear with me. All right. I'm not sure we have any earlier than. Okay. The next application, let's see, is Emanon East at 256 Main Street, which Emanon spelled backwards is no name.
I had nothing to do one night, I thought of that.
Oh, I'm sure, Michael. Introduce yourself, please.
Michael White, 7 Harbor Drive, Hampton Bays. Last meeting, there were a couple concerns. One was with the columns, which I fixed, where the capital passes the beam. That was wrong, we did that wrong. Also, the shingles on the second floor freeze board, that was a glitch. We changed that where the shingles curve into the freeze board. We fixed that. The line of sight, I don't know if you guys have been to the property. I did the original house next door. I just want to show you this.
And also, you may as well put it on the table, this way
Oh,
Cat
okay.
can get it.
Yep. So, this is the aerial. I built the house to the north. As you can see, there's a deck on the side that's literally 60 foot long, right on the side, overlooking this property. I put trees up since this that are about 14 foot. You can't see into this property anymore. And the neighbor, the person that's, that wants his house built, he was concerned, so he had us move the garage back. So when you look at the sight line, you look at the sight line here, you could see when he's looking he's not looking in their yard, he's looking at his garage roof because he wanted to block the neighbor from looking in. We're not gonna have a problem with us looking in his yard, we're gonna have a problem with them looking in ours because the deck that I built on the other house is the entire length on the side, not even in the back. So that's why we put this here, so you can't see into this guy's deck. So that was the concern. On the other side is the bed and breakfast, and this was made with the computer with what was there. I didn't know till today he even had a pool. The pool is so far back and the trees are 30 foot high, you can't even see the place. And in the rear, obviously, we're gonna do that. There's tanks back there. So we're gonna finish that. And, you know, I think I did everything. And this, I don't know how far you got, but those are plans. I don't know if you got them or not. Those are what we submitted.
Well, I hope the building department has,
Yeah,
because,
those are the architectural ones. I don't know if you got them or not. I'm
well, I
confused with the
didn't get
process.
them in,
I only got the-
When
in
did
this
they,
package.
when were they submitted?
These,
Uh-huh.
from the beginning. Those were just a couple changes you wanted with the shingles and the posts, but nothing else has
Yeah.
changed.
Well, presumably, Alex, those are in the file,
They're not
in the
very,
hard file, or?
they're very schematic, these drawings.
Yeah, that's,
I
I
mean,
mean, they don't,
they don't look real, sorry.
yeah,
What do you mean schematics?
Well, those shingles are drawn at like 2 feet high, you know, it's just not an accurate drawing. I have some expertise in this
Right.
affair.
well, just even from familiarity, it doesn't look like it's a buildable plan that any of us would sign off on. So I don't know, Alex, what's, oh, wait, we have the files here. Let's see what we got. Hold on a second. Let's go to the file, and let's see if they were in.
256. 256, recommend.
I see it.
In terms of the digital files, I think I only have 2 new renderings submitted for this meeting. I can put the screen if that's helpful.
A lot more than 2 renderings.
Well, the renderings are one thing, Michael. It's the buildable plans. What was the one you just picked up, Peter? It should say on the side vertically, Emanon East.
Yeah. Yeah, wasn't the last meeting a pre-hearing? It wasn't a meeting, it was just a pre-hearing review of the plan design. So
Was it?
We didn't have drawings.
we didn't
to
have drawings
approve,
then, and,
I mean, last time we had some options, right?
but
Yeah.
not detailed drawings.
But we didn't have
And
drawings.
we commented on that flare, which you said was a,
Right.
you know, a rendering thing, and we commented on the column.
Columns.
But I don't see drawings that really show, that reflect
Right.
those
Is
comments.
there anything that would indicate that the building department has reviewed this to see if it meets
May 5th.
code? So. I
Yeah,
just-
I mean, if this is what you're submitting, that's no good.
That's old.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
it says May
We
5th.
submitted
so
a
wait,
set of
so-
blueprints.
Well,
So
it
here-
says
wait,
May
wait.
5th, which was Thursday.
Here's March 25th.
So,
That's our blueprints.
That's your blueprint.
Right.
Okay. Alright. So now, let's see what we got here. But these now, if these are from March,
Same thing as,
then they've changed since then. So
Well,
here's,
2 things have changed, and this is,
What hasn't changed, we don't have a set of
Yeah.
blueprints, actual
those
blueprints to
aren't
look at.
detailed
to read.
drawings
Yeah.
of dimensions.
The only thing we
or-
have right now are this, and we can't vote on this, we would have to have a set of drawings.
Right.
A set of plans.
Which
so
is-
you want the exterior elevations drawn now?
so,
Of course.
my-
That's the
yeah,
only one
right.
we can sign off.
Okay.
So, Michael, we need, and look, you're not, this isn't your first rodeo.
No, I know
Um,
that. I'm just, this
so-
process has changed a little bit.
no, it hasn't.
No, so.
We've always demanded elevations.
You have to submit to the building department comprehensive plans that not
I
only,
understand.
you know, to design, to materials, all specs, indicating, you know, the equations on whether they fit the zoning code, the pyramid law. Alex can, you know, knows that far better than I do. But we need all that. What I think, I'll let you go through your presentation, and the board can give you some suggestions in terms of things. What I, obviously, and I put this down first, as did every other board member, the building plans, question mark, where are they? Then a line of sight study, I appreciate the renderings, but, you know, we have to treat all properties equally. On the previous
I
property,
don't
there was,
even,
there's.
I don't even know what a line of, you just told.
Okay,
You
so-
said you're treating them equally. You
Right.
just said you didn't need a line of sight for the
For
other
them,
one.
because there's 300 feet. So when I say equally, I should have said fairly.
I know, but
So Michael, just hear me out. So the line of sight on properties this close that we request and require when needed, unless the board members tell me they don't want it or don't need it, would be a stick figure 6 feet high, which is almost a foot taller, half a foot taller than me, looking out at the neighboring property, okay? And that will determine whether or not it's an issue, okay?
But this is, I just showed you, this is blocked.
I know.
If you look at the blueprint, you cannot see in their yard. If you look
There's
at the
no, there's no
properties.
context to that,
Right.
that rendering,
So-
of the proximity of that point to yards adjoining it.
It's just-
But I'm showing you the neighbor's house. So
I
if you
know.
approve something for the neighbor's house, how would you deny something for
I
somebody
don't
else's?
know. Well, at that
You
time,
can't.
who knows?
Pardon me?
You could deny a roof, you could deny a deck.
Every project is unique.
Not- So, Michael,
No, I'm just asking, where in the
Right.
code does it say you can't
no,
have a
Michael,
second-story deck?
I know this is not your first rodeo.
No, it's
You and
not,
I-
and
You and
I've-
I,
and
you
you
and
know
I
where I
have
went, and
interacted.
we
So what I'm not gonna do,
determined that
what
you
I'm
can't
not
do
gonna
that.
do, Michael, is argue point by point what we can do and what we cannot do. You need this board to vote approval. What
Right.
this board is asking is one, comprehensive building plans, which the building department requires. Secondly, a line of sight, which is a stick figure at 6 feet height, looking out on the property to the adjacent properties. It doesn't matter what we did to other properties, whether they had to submit it or not, at that time, I don't know. It's past history, but if you want this board to vote on this property, this is what the board needs. What I'd like to do, if you have more to present, let's present that, let's do it quickly, and then
Okay.
let's get the comments from the board.
What about a set of plans?
I'm
Am I
not
talking?
commenting on
I'm not
anything
commenting
until I
don't
see
have
a full
anything to look
set
at.
Okay.
of plans.
So,
I don't have
Wait a minute.
drawings, I don't have blueprints,
we
I don't
did
have
a-
sign off from the building department, what am I look? I can look at renderings, but I need plans.
No, I understand that. I mean,
Okay.
can we comment on if there's any issues with the renderings? I'll bring you the plans.
Sorry, this,
I don't consider your packet to be complete.
Well, last time you commented on it.
that was a
That was
pre,
that was a pre-meeting that you asked to get,
Oh, okay.
you asked us for a pre-meeting to get just comments for it, therefore you go back, finish your job, do your plans, come back, we look at them. But you've only come back with renderings, not with plans, so it's an incomplete packet.
It's
I don't
only
think we
fair-
should be commenting.
it's only fair to everyone else who does just
Everybody
that.
else goes through the
Okay.
exercise.
all right, so unless there's public comment, Kat, anybody out there? Okay, so I'm gonna move, what's that?
Said no hands.
No hands. So I'm going to move that we adjourn to our next meeting to allow the applicant to complete the file, including detailed business plans. That's my day job. And building plans and a line of sight. And Michael, if you have any questions, you can speak to the building department in terms of what's required in terms of the building plans, but you know it.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Second on that?
Second?
Second by Mark. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
See you in a couple of weeks, Michael.
Thanks, and I would just ask in Jackie's absence this week that any electronic plans be sent either to Derek or myself, and then the hard copies be dropped off to the building department as usual.
Okay, Michael, I don't know if he's still here or heard that, but, so any hard copies that you submit by paper, do you do also digitally as well? Okay, great, thanks much. All right, let me get my stuff in order, folks, and then we will proceed. Okay. All righty. You can take this back and lose it among the mass and mess. So, next application. Chris Char LLC at 40 Elm Street. Relocate existing dwelling with two-story addition, new porches and alterations, and renovate garage. And before us is,
Lisa Zaloga, architect.
okay,
I also have Dean Gamoka here as a landscape architect.
okay.
So the board remembers we were here talking about 40 Elm Street, and you guys had some comments at the last meeting and some requests. The first thing that we can talk about is this sitescape that I created using surveys of pretty much all the houses on the street till I get down to John Street. And you guys were all right. These houses.
Can you say that again?
All right, you were mostly right. No, you guys are all right. These houses are set back relatively uniformly. They range from 43 feet to 51 feet. This one's a little bit further back, but it doesn't have a front porch. So, you know, that's kind of the two-story element that you're kind of getting a dimension to, whereas these other ones have these front porches. All these other ones have front porches on them. So, in keeping with the request that the board made, we'd like to put the house at 43 feet, which is the same distance as the house 2 doors down. And you will remember that the house to the south here on the other side of the flag lot is only at 24. So I think with the fact that this is kind of separated, I think this then starts the transition to that 43, 49 foot setback. We also, like I said in my letter, I don't know if you guys read the letter, you know, these houses here, they're all kind of parallel to the north-south property lines as opposed to Elm Street, as is our house currently, and we're gonna maintain that. So just, these houses will all kind of be parallel to each other, but kind of slightly askew from Elm Street. So that was the first thing that we talked about when last we met. Some of the other comments were based about the windows being 1/1s. I went to the building department and found the you know, the blue sheet, if you will. In the picture, they appear to me to be 1/1s. It doesn't seem to reference them. I called the Historical Society and asked them if they had anything. She said she'd get back to me if she had something. I never heard back from her, so I don't know that there are any other pictures that would show anything different, but I have to assume that they were in fact 1/1s. And like I said, maybe it was to make the other ones more special, you know, that those were more special. You also mentioned the soffits and the columns, and in my letter I addressed that we will in fact replace those capitals so that they all match. I know that something must have happened, it rotted or whatever. And we will replace all the metal soffits or vinyl soffits with wood. What were some of the other things that we talked about? Primarily I think the other thing that we talked about, the last thing that we talked about, was really the location of the addition with respect to the front facade and how it was stepped back. And I think the comment was, you know, could we perhaps do the addition and make it more of a large rectangle? And I went driving around because I pulled out your historic guidelines and looked up the 4 square houses, and it actually told me like what streets they were on. It was kind of great. So I went driving around those streets, and I did submit pictures of you know, a lot of the houses that are on those streets, you know, Woolley Street, John Street, Elm Street, and most of those houses do seem to have additions that are stepped, you know, are behind the front facade, but are in fact to the side and are stepped down. And I think that when I read the guidelines, it says that, you know, when adding on to a historic house, you kind of are supposed to do that additive massing and not lose the integrity of the 4 square house. So the last picture that I kind of put in that packet was an example of a house that I think does go to, you know, added straight back on the house as opposed to stepping it off and having a side, you know, smaller, lower roof line projection to the side. And I think that it makes the house appear more massive. I did actually do a little quick sketch, and it really becomes much more massive, and I think you lose that 4 square feeling to it. So I think we're very comfortable with where our addition is, and I hope the board can feel the same way. We also have, like I said, Dean Gamoka here to talk about the landscaping plan, and I'll let him share his thing.
Okay. Dean, introduce yourself. please.
Dean Gamalka, landscape architect for 40 Elm Street. So I don't know if you had a chance to take a look at our plans, pretty well screened. And there are beautiful specimens on this site. There's a Japanese red maple that I do have the rendering. So we're keeping everything, cleaning up the lines a little bit with a new privet hedge, but maintaining a lot of the height that does exist that helps screening our intimate space from the neighbors. So this red maple does exist.
I'm sorry, can you point to that?
This
Okay,
Japanese.
Kat, can you get that?
It just froze.
Oh,
You continue. I'm just gonna reset it.
And there are large cryptomerias, and then on the north side, there are large lelands and spruces and things of that nature. So what we are doing is we're wrapping the property around just to neaten up the lines with a privet hedge. And then crepe myrtles, magnolias, hydrangeas, a very simple Southampton plant. I think the ornaments in the home.
so in terms of trees that are being removed, on this plan, I can see one, and then I can see one being relocated.
There's one in the where the pool is going to be too, correct?
Oh, that's in the rear. Okay, so is that all?
There is a there is a maple, a Norway maple, towards the south property line in the center that is not in great shape. We have the silver maple that's in the middle by the pool that is not in the greatest shape and is in an unfortunate location as far as our program is concerned. It's not the healthiest tree, and they do not live.
We may want to take a look at that. You know, I mean, it's a shame to lose trees, and even the tree in the rear yard, while it may not fit into your scheme, and it may shade part of the pool, it also may be part of the streetscape from the standpoint of the dome of the street. I don't know, I'd have to
I think
go
it's a
back and
personal
take a
call.
look
If
at
you
it, I don't
go
know.
to the site, I think it'd be great if you went to the site and.
Well, Sarah and I have done that before, and,
Yeah.
and this might be one of those, and
Okay.
we've done that with your counterparts, and we're not unreasonable, but we do want to preserve trees, and, to the extent we can. Okay.
There is an unfortunate red maple on Elm Street in the right of way that maybe we could talk to with if you agree. There's a beautiful elm tree just north of the red maple along the street. That is in really bad condition. I'd love to talk to Highways and maybe we can get another elm, American elm.
Yeah,
Maybe
that's,
place that.
yeah, well, I think we'll have to confer with the building department on that. You know, I don't know the rules offhand, but to remove an Elm Street from the eponymously named street.
No, I want to add an elm tree. There's
Wants to add one.
a maple tree in bad shape. So Mr. Gillespie, I usually go and ask
Oh,
him
okay.
how he feels about it. If you give your blessing that we could replace that tree, then.
Or with a maple rather than an elm. All right, let's,
I think
No,
there's a
an
prin-
With an elm instead of a
instead of a
maple.
maple.
an elm instead of a
I
maple.
think there's a Princeton
Oh,
elm
okay.
right before it.
It's Elm Street.
Right, I know. Okay, all righty. All right,
And then I guess we're looking for comments regarding our parking scenario.
From my standpoint, I am not in favor of opening up the cut to Elm Street and just looking at the back end of two cars driving down that street. If you can get down the driveway to get in the garage in the back, you can use the driveway to make a left-hand turn into a parking pad that's protected from view from the street.
you know, it's not that this wouldn't be the first and only front yard area, but the street wasn't designed that way, and we're trying to preserve as much history as we can and not sacrifice any more to cars. And I think what Mark is suggesting is a good one. I know you've got an issue with the driveway, so I don't know where that leaves you.
Just
and
as,
that's-
just one last ditch try here, you know, we have this classical house, and there's something to be said about entering from the front door opposed to driving to the back of the garage and having your guests come all the way back.
I'm not saying that, I'm saying, instead of the cars facing the street, turn your parking pad where it come in the driveway, make a left-hand turn in your parking pad so you don't have to do a curb cut to the street.
So, hopefully this is what you mean.
Yeah, looks
Yeah.
like.
And then we would continue on
Yeah.
if we do not get
Oh,
a.
no, it isn't.
What am I saying?
No, I think
No,
Mark.
no, no, you're still not using the driveway. You're doing an additional driveway instead of the shared driveway, right?
If we can't continue using the shared driveway,
But if you can't use the shared driveway, you also can't use the 3 parking spaces in the garage.
well, that's why we would be able to come back along the property this way.
So you'd put a driveway all the way down.
It would be a grass
If-
paved
yes,
system.
It would be a grass paved
It'd be a
system.
plastic honeycomb system.
Well, then you could still put you could still, I know it's not preferable, but you could also put a parking pad that turns to the left.
Like this, like this one.
No,
here. In other words, what you were just saying, come in and have one spot where you turn facing north?
unfortunately, it would go like that. You'd come in and turn into the pad and then have a one channel driveway all the way down, I
Yeah.
suppose.
Yeah, that's what this.
That's what he's showing
That's what we
here.
have here. Come in, you turn to the.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And then, or
And
you can
have to put
continue
two,
on back.
you have to put 2 cars there, right?
No, because you can park, you can have, you
Okay.
can have to move one car, only
Okay,
one
I'm
car,
sorry, I
so you can
misread
have 2
that.
back there.
My
Yeah,
mistake.
so there's one here in the front.
Well,
Okay.
you could essentially, if you have a long drive, you could essentially have cars.
No, the code
You
for
can't do it.
required parking says you can only move one car to get,
Right.
like, you can't have to move,
All right.
12 cars
All
to
right.
get out.
I just learned something tonight. Thank you.
So
And
what
if-
we're proposing-
And if you were to do that, that would be a honeycomb with grass.
Yeah.
Right.
And there's a picture of an example
No.
on ox pasture.
Does all this presume you're still trying to figure out the access issue with the driveway?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, but this solves the problem, should it become,
So where the car is and you have that hatching, that would be the only area that we have gravel, and everything else would be grass paved.
Yeah, like the grass paving looks beautiful. I love it. When you can get it to work.
There's a beautiful example on ox pasture.
Okay. All right, that's it, Dean?
That's it, thank you,
Okay,
sir.
great. And Lisa? So let's go right to left, but we'll start inside right. And
Inside
then
right.
go this way.
I think you've done a great job with the pictures showing the addition versus adding to the length, because you make an incredibly good point. The question is, to what degree that addition will make an impact on the facade of the house? If you look at 37 Osborne versus like 45 Woolley, I mean, the addition, you're right, it does work and it's subservient to the main house, but if it's too big, it really looks like a tumor on the house as opposed to.
Right.
So I'm just trying to get a better understanding. Do you have a rendering of the?
yeah. Dean was kind enough to.
But I agree with you on the massing with one long house has
Just,
much different.
just, if you can get it off the microphone.
The tree's in the way.
So,
Oh, okay, so that passes my smell test from that perspective.
It is, as Peter was saying, it is this masked a bit by the tree in the rendering.
yeah, but you can see it here. It's much smaller than that one that you're talking about, in terms of projection. Which is what allows it to have a lower roof.
Right. Yeah, I get it.
Okay, Sarah?
Yeah, I just want to clarify, you're talking still about moving the building, right?
Correct.
And you're justifying it by showing that, and therefore I want to really, you looked quite clearly at the guidelines when it came to 4 squares, but you appear to have skipped page 65, which talks about you just don't relocate buildings. And it talks about, that they say that, in the past, they used to treat them like little buildings that could be just moved around, but relocating buildings, particularly houses, basically you're moving it to a different location, and from a preservation perspective, you've got several negative features. First, the context of the building is lost. as well as its relationship with the surrounding natural and built environment. And second, such character-defining features as chimneys, foundations, and porches may be damaged or destroyed as a result of the relocation. And you're doing just that. Here you are in the middle of an historic district, a building that sits quite proudly and firmly in its existing location. And you wanted to use what we were talking about as the rhythm of the block as a justification to move it entirely. And I think that you're really not practicing preservation at all. My second point is that I totally agree with your photograph showing a Congo line of buildings back and forth and back and forth. When you're dealing with the Foursquare, I'm of the opinion that you don't build out. You come back from the original rear of the building and you step down in height. And that way you can make a clear differentiation between old and new and not make it overwhelmed by a tumor growth as it was described. And I think that's probably the only way to address this building. But I really am quite adamant about not moving this building, not moving it to the side, and certainly not moving it back another 20 feet. I think that totally denies the theory of historic preservation and what we're trying to do. Peter?
Thank you. Well, you know, the foundation is nice brick as well, so I would be concerned about what happens to that. I mean, we've had experience with unfortunate experiences with you know, foundation cladding lost, you know, despite promises otherwise. So I'm concerned about that because that brick is old, it's original, looks good. I don't know why you have to move it. As I said last time, I would take advantage of the non-conforming side yard. It will allow you more room for the driveway you might have to put in on the south side.
The driveway first.
And as far as the addition goes, I wondered if you could look at doing a lower plate height, that plate height that is just below the frieze, you know, so it distinguishes, the height of the addition will be a couple feet or a foot and a half lower than the height of the Foursquare. And that needn't mean a loss in ceiling height because you can, you know, exploit the attic space above. It's a suggestion. I mean, some of these Foursquares you did are very nice. The smaller the additions, the better. And, you know, some of them line up. 37 Osborne is a really bad one.
Yeah.
As is the one you pointed out at the end, you know, the one, you know, the run-on sentence that keeps going back. That's worse,
That's
no
really
question. So
I didn't put addresses on those so that we couldn't. I was trying not to.
Well, I mean, so we can talk about it, that's all. I don't want to vilify anyone, it's just that one happens to be not successful because it's so big. Anyway, that's what I have to say.
Okay. My only comment is, when we look at your streetscape, you actually sort of proven my point. As you go down Elm Street, all those houses have an east-west orientation. And when the way that the current addition has, it changes that visual to the street to a north-south, to a half a north-south orientation. So I'd rather see the house go back and maintain its orientation to the street as an east-west house. And I don't think the addition allows that to happen versus taking the house back and taking additional feet directly behind the house.
Okay, I mean, obviously, these guys added on a huge addition off over here to the side. I mean, just because these houses didn't, I mean, I think all the houses around the neighborhood.
But almost all those houses have been renovated.
Yeah, you can't even, like, I mean, this doesn't.
Okay, but that's not actually, that's actually not technically part of that house. So my point is, when I look at that from the street, what I see is east-west, 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 east-west. And that's the issue I have with the current proposal for the renovation. On that block, on that street.
Let me comment before I open it up to public comment. I've often said, in the years I've served, particularly as chairman, that there's this balance and a balancing act between personal, individual property rights and community integrity and community obligation. And the part that Sarah was reading from the guidelines, speaks to that very issue. Removing a building to a different location on the same property in order to take advantage of a better view or to make room for additional buildings is strongly discouraged. So why are we moving this house? We're moving it to accommodate other structures, a pool. We're taking down a tree that may or may not be in great shape or not. It then goes on, generally, removal of a building should be considered only under exceptional circumstances. The owner of the subject building should be prepared to justify the necessity for the move, outline what steps he has taken to avoid moving the building, explain the proposed moving process, and provide detailed plans showing the relationship of the moved building to its new site. Well, you've done the latter, but the point of this is the house sits nicely where it is. Were it being built today, maybe it would be in line with all the others, but it wasn't. And to change that does go against what our guiding principles are. So it's a hard one to justify. Perhaps you can justify it. The building, nobody has said the building is in disrepair. It's not. You're going to be moving it. So we come down to it's primarily to accommodate a pool for a house that was built at the turn of the century, last century, where a pool wasn't contemplated, and a stately four square is what was envisioned. So if you could accommodate a pool and everything else without moving it, I think the village and this board would be a lot happier. If not, further justification may be necessary, and I don't even know what that is, other than it is what it is. You want a pool, and you want it to be a 20th century house, or 21st century house.
And it's a contributing building within the historic district. I mean, we're applying state and national criteria. We're not being arbitrary. It's something that is part of historic preservation. So just the idea of, but if I want to, that doesn't cut it.
Okay, we're not moving it for the pool. I mean, I can leave it where it is and put the pool there, and the pool just gets closer to the neighbor.
Great.
It's not because, that's not the reason.
Oh, okay.
Part of the reason is that it's only 11 feet off the property line currently. So we're trying to get away from the neighboring property line and all those trees that are there, and gain some space on that side of the house so it can breathe and it has some light and air. And
my confused look is then you're moving it.
We're moving it
to the front, not laterally, or maybe you're moving it both.
I'm moving it from 11 feet to 15 feet.
Okay, right.
I'm moving it from 11 feet to 15 feet so that it would meet a minimum side yard setback off of the neighboring house.
But if it's non-conforming and it's approved and you don't have to move it, why do that? I mean,
it's only 4 feet.
It's a nice accommodation, but nobody's asking for that. The bigger issue is moving it forward to the street. So I'm not sure how that justification or rationalization carries any more weight for the board.
Peter, do you have anything you want to say?
It's a different board today than it was years ago, past years.
No, the board is, right. The
So
board,
there are executive
Peter, if you want to
proposals.
come up and introduce yourself.
Peter Cardell, 129 Toilsome Lane, Southampton Village. I don't know if my work has always been to build homes that are appropriate for the properties.
You've come before us before, and we recognize that.
So, I apologize, it's allergy season.
I hear you.
I thought Lisa and I did a really good job taking a house that I've known for years personally. I took my kids have trick-or-treated on Elm Street forever, well, when they were little. I loved the property the first time I saw it, I bought it, I said, I want to keep everything about this house and still be able to improve it, as you said, bring it to the current day, current time. Make it a great home, yet keep all of its charm. Ms. Latham, I do disagree with some of your comments, but, you know, those are your opinions, and I respect them. I think, obviously, we're not there tonight. I think we can work with you guys, and we can take it further. I also want to thank you for, you know, Mr. Dios has been voicing his concerns with this board and with the building department. As Ms. Cooley said, those concerns, they're not within your purview to entertain. So that'll be between the Dios family and myself. We did, however, as Lisa and Dean pointed out, as Ms. Cooley said, should we decide to build without continued use of the shared driveway, it's at my own peril. So we have a provision to continue, should that not work out. I think that's all. I think Lisa and I have more work to do.
Is it safe to say that, I mean, the addition you're suggesting could be added without moving the house? Is that?
Oh, yeah.
It
Yeah.
can, but I don't know if the board members have actually been to the property.
Yes.
There's massive, massive trees on the north
Massive trees
property
on the
line.
side.
Complete, I mean, 4 feet, Ms. Latham, is meaningful. So, and to bring the house forward, it's a beautiful house. We're not talking about, you know, bringing it all the way up to the setback any longer. So just that slight amount of distance to move it forward might actually make it even more presentable as an historic home on Elm Street.
But it'll be denying the entire integrity. I mean, you should probably look at.
No, I understand the code, and Mr. Broley just read it to us.
Right.
But everything's open for interpretation and opinion. And as I said, I've heard yours, and we're gonna work on it, and we're gonna come back, and I think we're gonna find a happy place.
Well, I think if we walk the property, or whoever walks the property, doesn't have to be me necessarily, with Steve, we may get a better sense of how the house sits. I mean, it sits where it sits now, but in terms of the relationship to the trees and the proximity and the argument that you're making, which is that it's.
The house is up against trees.
Right.
Massive trees.
Because I looked at that house, you're either gonna end up with a dark side, I guess it'd be the north side. The north side is completely dark because it's literally up against the trees. So you either need to lose tree to get daylight into it, half the house, or that's the I'm not saying it's the right justification, but the justification for shifting it is to get daylight to the entire side
And
of the
also-
house, or lose trees.
Right.
To Mr. McIntyre's point, it would require a massive limbing up of that property line, which would be horrible.
Yeah, no, that
It
could
would just
be-
look terrible.
Would the tree be lost regardless if the house is moved? I mean, the
It
damaging.
actually might improve the healthiness of the trees.
I mean, from a roots, have you had an arborist take, give an opinion on the roots?
Oh, no,
and
no,
the-
so we would be able to lift the house, move it, I've done it many times. It's actually being done right now as we speak across the street. The foundation.
But that house isn't being it's being lifted and dropped back right where it was.
Oh, that wasn't my point. I was getting to Mr. DeWitt's point about the foundation and the existing old brick on the outside of the foundation. I can have a mason remove it all, we can inventory it, and we can reapply it. I'm not concerned, that's the level of work we do.
Okay.
And also, should we need more, it's available. I can purchase antique brick, so.
So it seems to me, and we recognize what the guidelines are saying and recognize what you're saying, and I tend to agree with you. Let's walk the property, let's look at the trees. I think we'll get a better sense of that side and how critical it is. All right,
I've walked the house a few times as well, so.
all right.
And is that something we all do together, or we do it on our own, or?
Well, I know Sarah wants to do it. And it.
I've
it could-
already walked it, but I'll walk it again.
I'm
Okay, well,
available
I think it's a
as
matter of walking with Steve the way we did on that other property on
Okay.
Pelletreau, to really understand.
Excuse me.
I take you, Steve,
Dean.
Dean. Yeah, Steve, I'm sorry. I'm thinking the previous application, Steve Naroda, right? From Aries. Dean. We did on another property where we actually looked at whether or not the trees were salvageable. Okay. We're not an arborist, you are, but it's good to see it as
That
well.
north side is really, it's worth taking a walk.
Okay,
seeing what we-
all right, well, that's what we'll do.
we can-
And also, trees do, they outlive themselves at some point. And
But
these trees
houses
have,
do not.
they look absolutely horrible.
We can keep on going on this. What I'd like to do is ask if there's any public comment.
Tree should die a natural death.
Well, these are almost there, so.
Yeah. One hand is raised.
Before we can- I just wanted to point out the plans that were shown on the table looked like they had a front driveway with a 90-degree turn, and that was not reflected on the plans that I saw on file. So just wanted to point that out, just to make sure that we have the latest and most up-to-date on file.
Tim called me this afternoon and asked me to change it because, part of the parking is supposed to be screened. And so we jumped through some hoops to get it done for tonight, but it was literally told to me this afternoon.
Great. All right, good. So let's move to adjourn.
Excuse me, Chair. Excuse me, Chair. I do have a hand up that just went up. It's Brian Donaghy. I imagine it's public comment.
Oh, yeah, please, public comment.
Okay.
Don't forget about our audience.
Oh, okay. I can't see you behind that mask.
Okay, Brian, I need you to unmute yourself and put your camera on, please.
All right. Thank you, Peter.
Good, here we go.
All right. Again, tell us, reintroduce yourself and where you live.
Good evening. My name is Brian Donaghy, 36 Elm Street. Good to see everybody again. I like seeing a lot of the changes that were discussed tonight and the panels or the board's feedback so far. I think it's on target in my opinion. And I think just to reiterate the current house, its location, the look from the street was there since the early 1900s. And I'm not too sure, unless there's a necessity for use of the house, on why there will be a change to a perfectly fine house on Elm Street that basically it's been there since the early 1900s. We are in a historic district, so I think keeping in that location is important. In addition, see, I had a letter sent in earlier today that discusses some of my concerns as the resident down that common driveway that is a flag lot. It's a common driveway shared by two flag lot houses. 40 Elm Street is not a flag lot. I'm not too sure why there would be discussion or a necessity for them to enter a flag lot driveway that was meant for two homes, and why we would make that into a third flag lot to a house that faces Elm Street. So again, I appreciate the owner's architect's design showing the driveway going up the side of the house, whether they use grass block or gravel or whatever they like on their own property. Again, I think if you look at the photos I submitted earlier today, that's basically how every single house is on Elm Street. I personally I'm not opposed to the courtyard area, the pull-in courtyard that they just showed in front of the house. That matches the home south of the shared driveway and south of 40. I figured offhand what number it is, but they have something similar at that house. With regards to tonight's meeting, the moving of the house, access off the shared driveway that was built to clearly accommodate two flag lots in the back, and not needing to move the house forward or backward or anything else for a pool or anything. Again, there's nothing shown in the movement of this home that's a necessity. So again, I don't know why we would stray from the historic district guidelines to make any of these accommodations. As much as I'm a big fan of builders, what builders do, and making the homes nice, but the trees and the big, beautiful old trees that haven't discussed, yeah, the homeowner should maintain their property and prune those trees and keep them healthy. It'd be a shame to see trees like that die. So I think everybody's, from what I've seen, we're on the right path, in my opinion. And I appreciate all the work that the panel is doing so far, and the architects in the flexibility to keep the driveway on their own property. There's a lot of ways to get it done, and I think that's where it should remain. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So public comment, please. A real person.
Yeah, hi, I'm Rose Dios, and I represent 38 Elm Street. And just to chime in what Brian was saying, it's 18 Elm Street. That's a house south of 40 that has the driveway, what he was referencing. But I just want to say briefly that we oppose using our driveway for 40 Elm Street because they have access to a street. A driveway like our driveway gives access. So that's number one. And, you know, there's no reason he can't have his own driveway. And what I'm concerned about with those plans is that the way it looks is that using our driveway would be his service entrance. So I really believe he's never had access to our driveway because there's hedges blocking him and that, you know, he's not entitled to our driveway. And then you told us, okay, that's not your concern. So we went to the building department and we have 60 years of deeds, all the surrounding neighbors, and the only easements are for our properties on that driveway. There's never a mention of any property other than 36, 38. So I don't see why anything should be even like considered. You know, why even talk about moving trees? Let's first get this driveway issue because that's going to, there's a tree right next to it. So I really believe that even though you said, oh, that's the building department, well, we met with Tim and he has copies of the deeds too.
I'll let Alice chime in. My mother was disappointed that I did not become the attorney that she hoped she would have in the family. I'm not going to pretend to be one here tonight. And it sounds to me that the issue that you have with the other neighbors is one that has to be addressed. If you claim that he doesn't have access, well, I know you're going to put cones in there and block him. You know, that's an issue that we can't adjudicate. And so it's not that we don't have a concern, but it's just that we couldn't even possibly address it, try to bring an answer to it. Alice, I don't know if you want to make any other comment that would help Rose.
Well, you know, what we said last time was that, you know, if this is an issue that needs to be decided between the neighbors, it needs to be decided in court. They have access now, and they've demonstrated that. So I don't think it's appropriate for the board to weigh in and say they can no longer take access here. That's far beyond this board's purview.
Have you gone to the property? Because they don't have access.
Okay. Well, again, that's not Alice's.
Yeah.
What she's saying is, you guys have to figure it out. We can't possibly. What we can do is that which we're charged to do.
Okay. Well, it shows on the deed.
Okay. Yeah. So thank you, Rose. We do appreciate it. And obviously, the owner, Peter, acknowledged his risk of construction.
I just want to say that as of up until like a week ago, that's been the only driveway that was there since I have aerial photos from 1976. No, I just want to put it on the record because I don't want that to be said that, you know, that he doesn't have access because he does in fact.
So, Lisa, you're asking us to adjourn?
If I have to.
Oh, I never like to force you. So I move that we accept the applicant's begrudgingly offered request to adjourn.
Here, I'm sorry, Brian Donaghy's hand just went back up.
We've heard from the public, unless it's additive. I don't want to address the driveway issue.
It's not our issue.
So unless it is specific to architecture.
His hand is still up.
All right, we'll hear it, but we try to avoid a rebuttal and argument between the applicant and the public. Public is for the. Okay, Brian, come on in.
Okay, Brian, we just need you to unmute and put your camera on, please.
Hi again, and thank you for bringing me back into the panel.
Okay.
From an architectural standpoint, putting a driveway in a place that does not currently have a driveway is an architectural issue and should be covered by this board. To say a driveway does not impact the architecture is a little ridiculous. And they do not have access. There's a gravel patch that the previous owner has used as a courtesy of not only myself, because we've had the conversations with the previous owners. I believe the other residents that share our shared driveway have had those conversations, because I was present in one of those conversations. So it's more of a neighborly thing where cars would come in and out of our driveway where I have an easement.
Okay, so Brian, we got you on record on that. We realize that there is an architectural relationship in the historic district. This board does have consideration over issues related to placement.
It's on the architectural drawings, sir. It's on the drawings. They're showing the entrance.
All right, and that's, and Brian, in fairness, and then we do have to go on. We addressed that in talking about the cut and the turn into the front. So we're all going to be back here in a couple of weeks. Let's address it at that point, okay? I'm going to go back to the applicant's request to adjourn.
Yes, please.
Second on that?
Second.
Second by Mark. All in favor? Aye. Okay, thank you, everybody, and thank you, Brian, as well. I didn't,
Thank you, guys.
I guess.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your time.
Okay. Okay, let me, where the heck are we here? On the scheme of things.
151st Neck.
Ah, right. So Mark and Hillary McInerney Trust at 151st Neck Lane.
Okay, I have two hands up. I imagine they are for the application. I have Brian Brady and I have Anthony. I do not know how to say his last name. Vertima.
Oh, I think he actually might be here for 39 Lewis Street. So maybe we should second call that soon.
Okay, so we're going in order. If 135 Lewis Street will be called a second call at the end of this segment. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, for 151st Neck Lane, this is a new application. We received the affidavits and they're in order.
Great, thank you, Alice. Okay. So whoever is representing the McInerneys or the property owners, whoever they might be, please tell us who you are.
I have Brian Brady's hand up, so I assume is
Okay.
that would be correct? Okay. I'm bringing him in. Okay, Brian, when you get a chance, if you could put your camera on and unmute yourself, that'd be great.
Okay.
Hello, Brian, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Brian Brady. I am the architect for 151st Neck. And since this is a hybrid, how does this work? Do I share my screen or?
Well, if you've submitted your information electronically, Alex has it. But if you're facile at screen sharing, you can do it as well. What do you want to do, Kat?
That's perfect.
Okay.
Yep. If there's any discrepancy, we can take your
Yeah.
plans and put them on stage.
Okay. Okay, can everyone see this plan that's up?
Oh,
No.
share your screen yet.
Then
Alex,
we
do
go
you
to
have a
Plan
plan?
B.
Okay, so do you want me to walk you through it?
You know what? Let's
Sure.
have Alex.
Go ahead.
Hang on one second. Are you looking for it, Alex, or should I have this guy?
I do have the plans. I can put them up on the screen if that's easier.
So let's, Brian, we'll have Alex share his screen, and then you can direct which slides you want to be presented. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so this is an existing house at 151st Neck that was an historic house when it was built, but in the 80s was modernized and a very modern addition was put onto the rear of the property. It actually has a nickname being called the Sugar Cube House. So the scope of my job, my project, is if you see that flat roof above the 3 windows in the first picture.
Yeah.
Okay, see above that, there is a deck. And you can see there's some furniture up there. It's, you can see the outline of there's chaises that are up there. So the scope of my job is to put an addition on this house that is a master bathroom in that spot. And you can see in the second picture, basically the addition is coming out to where the end of that canopy furniture is. Alex, can you keep scrolling? Yep. So this is what we're trying to create. Since it's an addition to the historic part of the house, the roof line has been lowered and all the materials are the exact same of what's existing. The windows will match, the doors will match, the materials will match. This property is heavily, heavily screened. You really can't see this from anywhere on the street. It's an acre of land and actually not a very large house. Can we keep scrolling? Okay, so this is the plan of the second floor. You can see all the walls that are pochade in the back there, that's the new addition. And it's basically about 300 square feet. And then there are a couple little internal things on the second floor with doorways moving and things like that. But that's the extent of the project.
Okay, great. That's it, Brian? So I'm going to start.
I have a question. Brian, on A2, you're also changing the west elevation, right?
Where is the west elevated?
A 2.0?
Yes, you'll see on the second floor, there's a round window above the front door, and we're changing that to a casement, and then we're adding 2 more casements next to it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mark.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, Sarah.
So I'm guessing it was a 1930s building and then it was added on into the 80s. Is that the story?
Yes.
It's funny, I had looked at those circular windows and had admired them, thinking, gee, is this a 30s building or an 80s building? And I guess my instincts were correct. I would be in favor of retaining the circular window if that was, do you have earlier photographs of what this building looked like?
I do not, and from the front of the house, you can't even see that window. The main reason, I'll tell you the main reason for the windows they wanted to change is because the one in the front of the house is in a closet, and they wanted to, they are entering their bedroom through that closet now, and they wanted to be able to put window treatments on it because it's in the master bedroom, and a circular window didn't really lend itself to what they were trying to do.
For window treatments, I would still suggest that the circular window would be a good thing to retain. The back, you can't see anything, and it's a discrete addition. And I would heartily support the rear addition, with the exception and with the retention of the circular on the west elevation.
Okay.
Peter?
I think the addition is fine, and I don't mind losing the circular window.
Okay. Mark?
I think the addition's great. I think it actually improves the house. I think all the way around it's improving the house, even the change in the west elevation for the getting the windows. I hear Sarah's point about, do we know both those round windows were in fact original?
We do not. I mean, they're not old windows now.
No, they're not old.
They're new windows.
But we don't know in the original design of the house if those 2 windows were wrapped.
No, I couldn't see that.
I think it would be a good idea to try to find what it looks like.
To be honest with you, I would like to know that, but I wouldn't quibble about them, but I would like to know, just because it's an interesting feature.
Mhm.
But I think the overall improvement of the house is fantastic.
Go ahead, John.
I agree. I think the addition is fine. And if there was any shadow of the original house as built, even close to that, I think the windows would be an issue, the round windows. But I agree with Mark. I wouldn't quibble on that from my standpoint. But the house bears no resemblance, I'm sure, to what was originally constructed. I think we've passed that. The water's gone under the bridge for that one.
Well, unless might it have been an Art Deco type house?
Yeah, and that's why
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I
I
thought
think,
it was.
Brian.
therefore the porthole would make sense.
I reiterate or ditto what Mark was saying. Overall, I think it's an improvement to the house, and other than the quirkiness or maybe homage to what the house originally was in terms of that circular window, I'd like to find that out as well. So if you wouldn't mind going to that effort, Brian, and seeing if you can find some pictures somewhere of what the house looked like.
Okay, I can do that.
All right.
And come back to you in 2 weeks.
Yeah, that would be great. Let me ask if there's any public comment.
I have none on Zoom.
Okay, great. So at the board's request, I move that we adjourn so the applicant can come back with some pictures perhaps of the original fenestration and house, which the 2 usually go together. And might I have a second on that from someone?
Second.
Mark, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you, Brian. We appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, so now we're at 27 Gin Lane. Okay. 27 Gin Lane LLC, and to amend a prior approval. Okay.
I'm up here and I have the affidavits, they're in order.
You have them?
Okay, yep.
On the affidavits. I mean, when I say you're not, I'm saying to hand them to you.
Right,
Can you see
okay.
this way?
Let's just make sure they get into the file.
Yeah, we'll put them,
Okay.
if you have any
Thanks,
finding
Peter.
the file for 27 Gin Lane, just throw those
Thanks.
in there.
Right there.
Oh, you're virtually here, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Dave, John Bennett and Dave, Chris Tasuno. Yes. Actually, the applicant had obtained approvals to construct a small addition on the 27 Gin Lane, and just decided to limit the renovation primarily to interior renovations with some minor alterations to the exterior of the residence. And we submitted a series of before, approved, and now proposed. And if
Okay.
Chris is here to take you through them, if you have any questions, I think there's sort of as the lawyers call it, residents local, they speak for themselves through the.
Oh, I love when you speak Latin, John. I don't know. I'm trying to add some levity.
I mean, I think I need counsel.
Bear with me. All right.
Excuse me, Chair, I just need to get the name of who's speaking now. I missed that.
Okay.
I'm Christopher D'Asuno, I'm the architect.
Okay. You got that?
I do, thank you.
And John, thank you.
All right, go ahead, Christopher, now that I've turned things on. To you.
So initially, this was the existing partial elevation.
Yep.
We came to you a number of months ago, and we're expanding a bit more significantly in our proposal. Since then, we have decided to scale the whole project back. One of the main reasons is because we wind up getting into the zoning.
Setback, yeah.
It was a setback
Okay.
issue from the pond, so
Okay.
we didn't want to go for
Oh,
a
actually,
variance.
from the side yard, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So,
We
initially.
didn't meet the revised side yard setback, so.
Okay.
we had to bring it back in. Sorry.
Right. So all we're going to do now is fill in under the existing porch roof,
Gotcha.
where there's a couple of columns. We'll remove the steps and make a little bump out.
Okay.
So it's actually less
All right,
expensive.
yeah.
No more balcony.
No balcony, no
So,
balcony.
continuing the order, that's it? That's you? Okay, that's it. Peter, any comments?
I think it looks great.
Yep. Mark,
I'm with Peter.
John, Sarah? Perfect. Okay.
I'll have to speak.
And any, what's it, Fine?
You work on that, John.
Fine, what would be the Latin? When after we move, it's finida or something like that, or, anyway.
Adjourn without date, no, that's sine
Okay.
die.
Sine-
No, that's
no,
not part. They want to adjourn.
Well, right, that's why I never became an attorney. I couldn't speak Latin. Any public comment? Okay, other than, and no comments about my inane jokes. So I move that we accept the,
We need a
application.
written determination.
Yes.
Oh, yes, I'm
Yeah,
sorry. This
you're
is,
gonna
I move that we submit to written decision the application of 27 Gin Lane with a positive endorsement to approve. Anyway,
For
second
written
on that.
determination.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, great.
very much.
We'll have, Alice will have a written decision within the requisite 30 days, probably before, I would guess. Okay, now let's recall 39 Lewis Street.
Okay, I have Anthony here for this application. I'm going to bring him in. You could put your camera on and unmute yourself, please.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello?
Hi.
Yes, fine.
Just give the chairman a minute to organize.
Okay, yeah, I'm as organized as I'm gonna get. Go ahead. So, tell us who you are, where you hail from, okay?
Anthony, you're muted.
You're muted. Let me see if we can. Pat, I can't unmute him. Are you able to?
Hello?
There you go.
Okay, sorry, as system's acting up here. I'd like to screen share.
You have access to do so.
Okay, let me go into it here. All right, folks, can you see the revised front elevation here?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll take you through what we've done. We have, very carefully made the spacing of the columns, the two big support posts, and the size of the windows, the number of panes in the windows, even the size of the panes of the windows match what's there existing. Really, the only thing that's different is the front door itself, which we are proposing to replace with something that's closer to what the old photographs of the original front door seem to indicate it looked like. Not the clearest photographs, but that's what we did. On the side elevations, per this board's suggestion, that the only two operable windows will be on the two sides of the porch.
operable casement windows. In this case, the windows along the front will be fixed. Before I move on to the next drawing sheets, I just want to bring up one quick topic here. It was suggested at the last meeting that we put shutters on the windows in the front gable. Our inclination is not to do that for a very specific reason. At a previous meeting, this board rightly admonished me for not drawing in the little shingle detail here, which I have drawn in and made an indication that it's going to be kept. But if we put the shutters back on, you know, you'd hide that shingle detail. So we don't want to do that. Also, the old photographs of the house seem to show that, you know, at a very early point in the house's existence, any existing shutters had been removed. So that's where we stand on the shutters. I'm going to go to the floor plan. Can you folks see the floor plan now? Yep. Okay, great. So what we do here, once again, you can see the column spacing. What we've done here with the inside interior wall, we closed down the opening into the entrance hall considerably from what it was originally. We, instead of closing it in from the middle, which was just kind of silly because it just meant you'd walk through the front door and see a blank wall, we closed it in from one side to 11 feet wide, which I think was a number that was brought up at the previous meeting. It actually worked out pretty good for us because it allowed us to, I mean, I know this isn't your purview, but it did allow us to kind of move the powder room around into a better spot and make some better use of the space. So we're pretty happy with the way this wound up. And then the dining room, we've closed this opening down to 8 feet, which is another number that was brought up at the previous hearing. We're keeping that little step here that we had talked about, the 5-inch step or so between the enclosed porch and the inside. Nothing's changed here. The same existing windows exist. One little note here is I'm going to go to A5. Pan this around here. A second. There we go. Okay. I'm not sure how well you can see this, but this is that interior wall. So here's that big center opening closed down to 11 feet. Here is the other opening closed down to 8 feet. And then we just added an extra window in here just because this wall is looking kind of blank with just shingles. So, you know, once again, to make this in the spirit of making this look like an outside wall that has been in an enclosed porch, which is basically what it is. So those are really the main changes that we've, are really the changes we've made since the last hearing.
Okay, back to my far right. Mark, you want to start?
Thank you for listening. To me, I know you removed the bay, but to me, you managed to make that second wall look like an exterior wall, though it's now a climatized interior wall, which is kind of like what we were seeking. And I think for how to live in this house, I think it's a good job.
Okay, John?
I would agree. I like what you've done with that interior wall. And I just want to thank you for, you know, being patient with the board and working with us to say what is actually just a beautiful representation of what it means to have a house in Southampton, an old house, something that makes the village very special. And I appreciate the effort of the homeowner to do just that.
Okay, Sarah?
I would feel more comfortable with a 6 foot because that's what was original, but I know that I just need to make that clear. I know that's not going to be the tiebreaker, so I really appreciate how far we've come. Thank you.
Peter?
I think it looks great. I love this house.
Okay. Let me ask if there's any public comment. Okay.
I do have, I have Jim Houseman in, that he has his hand up, excuse me.
Jim, if you want to speak, you're welcome to.
I can bring him in. Did you want to keep the elevations up at the same time or?
Yeah, if that's okay. I mean, you know, he's just my boss, so I'm sure he doesn't mind.
Okay, I'll bring him in.
Good career move.
Okay, I can't see him, but Jim, if you don't have your camera on, if you could put it on and unmute yourself, that would be great.
Hi, everybody. Can everyone see me?
Yes, just reintroduce yourself, Jim.
Hi, I'm Jim Hausman. I'm the owner of 39 Lewis. Anybody who's been through this process knows that I am not the boss. Anthony's the boss and the board's the boss, as far as I can tell. So thank you all for your consideration. I know we've been back, 4 or 5 times now, but as we made clear in the past, our intention is to make this, the finest, house on the block, in line with its historical importance of buying from a family that built the house 122 years ago. So thank you for all of your consideration over these many weeks.
Okay,
Thank you.
great. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you for being collaborative.
Yes.
We've really, this house has so much character, and what you will have maintains what it always looked like, but in a beautiful new way. It's just a beautiful house.
Right. Okay, thank you. And with that, I would move that we accept the applicant's submission plans as submitted this evening. Do I have a second on that?
We need a written.
Actually, I'm sorry. I submit to written decision the application and drawings as submitted this evening. Thank you, Alice. Do I have a second on that? Second by Mark. All in favor? Aye. Okay. So Jim, so you know the process. Given that this is in the historic district, council has to write a written decision for the certificate of appropriateness. We have 30 days within which to do this. I don't know Alice's schedule, and I don't want to speak for her, but sometime between now and the next meeting after this, second.
I'll have it today.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Alice. So, all right, great. Let me get again my things in order. And thank you, gentlemen. Anthony, Jim.
Thanks.
Okay. Driveway gates in the historic district. One application, 840 Meadow Lane, LLC. At 840 Meadow Lane.
A new application also. We received the affidavits and they're in order.
Thank you, Alice. And John?
So my name is John Bennett, and I represent the owner, and Will Campo, who's one of the home administrators, service people, is here with me. Craig Spiegel, who's from Peter Marino, is the project architect. I think my client was very brave in purchasing this house because they're going to do a lot of work to it, but they're going to be under quite a bit of scrutiny. And we understand it's the last house in the Beach Historic District. So when I was approached with an idea to put some gates at the service entrance, I said, let's make them virtually invisible from the street. The gates are 97 feet from the property line, which hopefully is something that is refreshing to you. It's 20 feet. 20 feet is the minimum. It's up by the tennis court. The only thing, and please don't consider this a late hit, this is nothing different visually than what you had, but what I noticed when I saw it was that it didn't show, I mean, it was pretty obvious that this meets your opaque standards, but I wanted to mention it for you. So that's all it is. It's just like the dimensions of the tickets and the space between those on it. And one of the things that you should note is that the driveway sort of snakes around as a little serpentine as you come in. So in the area where the gates are proposed, it's really essentially impossible to see from the road.
John, and is it just one gate or is it two gates?
It's 2 gates.
No.
Oh, no, the gate posts out front, they're just the posts. There's no change.
Okay, but
proposed.
on the left side.
Well, this is the service entrance.
It's a 8.5 acre, 9 acre post.
Which is the driveway that has the mermaids on the gate?
Not this one, I don't think. I've taken note of that quite often, yeah.
Yeah, so the gate's going up here.
Well, right,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
what's the scale?
That exists already.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah, I think it's the
mermaid
easterly
gates
one
were
that has
the-
the.
Those are the official driving gates.
Those are the
Those are the official.
mermaid gates.
Okay, any comment, board members? No?
We'll be back to you.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Okay. All right.
Maybe.
All right, any public comment? Okay, this is so far back that my normal request for no external mechanisms is not relevant.
Thank you, because, no, thank you.
But there
I
aren't
hope
any.
you don't think that I was being presumptuous, but I said, if you want that gooseneck, you're gonna have to put it way back, so.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's
But
an
it's a
issue.
service
Is it an
entrance.
issue for anybody?
No,
Yeah.
not on this
Okay,
one.
okay. All right, so I move that we move this to written decision, or we submit this to council for written decision, for 840 Meadow Lane driveway gates. Second on that, please?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you, and thank you in advance, Alice. Okay. I think you have enough information. This new submission here will be in the file,
It's fine, yeah.
right? John, did this get submitted to the file, the building department as well?
No. If you could put it in there, that'd be great.
You want to do that? I don't have a date stamp here, but,
I do.
Yeah.
oh,
It's
you
right
do?
there.
Okay, there we go.
I just thought, again, it was pretty
Yeah.
obvious, but I
Yeah,
thought
yeah, that's
better
good.
better put it on.
Just need to.
Date stamp.
Okay.
I got it. Let's change the date. What's the date? Ninth.
Okay.
What is today?
In fact, let me,
Ninth, yeah.
let me take somebody else's copy, so this way there'll be two in the file.
Just double check it.
Okay. Okay, great, thank you. There you go, boy, that sounds official, doesn't it?
It does.
Why you thump it?
Gotta pay us the big bucks. Okay. So now we're gonna move on to non-historic applications. So we've got some adjournments here, the Heart of the Hamptons, that's a standing adjournment. We have Patrice McGee and John Kuzukria at 90 Fox Hollow Lane requesting an adjournment to the 23rd. I can't recall whether that was a prior one or not, but let's move to accept the applicant's request to adjourn to the 23rd. Second on that.
Second.
By Sarah, all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Okay, so then on to Charles Falco, 135 Lewis Street, to amend a prior approval. Okay, so who is representing Mr. Falco? Okay, Michael? Tell us, to introduce yourself, and then I just want to give a little preamble to this, okay? Okay,
Michael White, 7 Harvard Drive, Hampton Bays, New York.
okay, great. So Michael, for your benefit and for that of the public, this has been an ongoing concern of a property, of a structure built in many ways, as was outlined a few weeks ago very adroitly by Mark McIntyre. The number of deviations from that which was approved. As I've said, and as we've treated all amendments where things have been built contrary to what was approved, it's as if they don't exist. So the fact that your clients spend a lot of money doing whatever they did, it's of no consequence to this board. So we're viewing this based on the house that was there and the house that was approved. Okay?
One thing, Michael, if you talk about a picture, can you turn it around so I can get it?
Oh, okay.
When you talk about them.
All right.
Okay, yeah, so
I'll
have
set 'em
have
up
it
for you.
facing us, right, Kat?
Facing you?
Yeah, facing the
Okay.
board. Thanks, Michael.
So, as you're aware, this house, I believe it was built in 1920. And under the law, we have the right to wreck the house, demolish it. It's not in a historic zone, but the homeowner liked the house, and they live in Queens, and there's a lot of Tudors in Forest Hills, and they thought that they could modify this house and make it livable. And as you see in these photos right here, this was the house. It was in really bad condition. The roof is original. It was slate. It was falling off the house. So as we went along, we proceeded with the house. The roof was falling off, and a slate roof is dangerous to fall off the house. So what we did was we had choices of wood was not a choice at the time. It's still not really a choice because you can't get cedar shakes that easily for a roof. And asphalt they didn't want to use. Slate they definitely weren't going to use. And so at the time, we had ice and water shield on our roof. We ripped it off. And the price of the steel, the metal roof, was over $100,000, and it was something they didn't want to do. So they decided to put the roof on. It was an emergency, and that's what they wanted. And there are very few places to get cedar shakes right now. And, I don't know what the board would want him to do. I mean, he had no roof. He should have really investigated the roof maybe more when we went for the permit. But whatever was left got destroyed during construction. The other issue was the rooftop deck. There is no ventilation in the house. The windows that are in the front, they don't meet egress. The windows that were in the back, the side, they were 2x2 because the roof, the way it sloped up. So they put a rooftop deck, which they use for ventilation. There's no furniture there. They don't sit on the deck. There's no reason to sit on the deck. They use it purely for light and ventilation. As you can see in the pictures, you can't see in the neighbor's yard. Where's that picture? Right here. This picture, you can't see in the neighbor's yard from there. And you could also see that the neighbors have a metal roof, standing seam, same type of roof. The house is surrounded by a parking lot, surrounded by a street, 2 streets, and the hospital. So, and there's also a lot of other examples of rooftop decks. There's 183 Herrick's, there's 275 Old Town, there's 80 Old Town, there's 285 Old Town, 112 Herrick's, and 228 Old Town. These are all in the same area, and they will have, not rooftops, second-story decks. So I know he should have came to this board, but he didn't. So, I mean, I'm not saying it was right that he didn't do that.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's.
My problem is he came to this board.
There we go.
He came to this board.
So,
This house started to be built without a building permit.
No, that's not true.
Yes, it's true.
It was being
So-
we're doing
What?
interior
No, no,
demolition.
I saw it.
That doesn't
So-
mean.
it's another debate.
So then we went
Let's
through 4
speak.
arduous meetings for this house,
Mhm.
4. And the original plans had that deck on it. And we turned it down for very specific reasons, one being its close proximity to the neighbor. The deck remained, and after all those, you gave us a plan that took the deck off, reestablished the roof line, which was right for that house. And we all finally signed off on it. You never reestablished, or someone never reestablished the roof line. You were the builder. No one reestablished the roof line. The deck remained. As for your argument that it's for egress, then why did you wire it for why are there speakers up there and why are there lights? But more than that, I don't believe the deck should be there. I think you should that deck needs to be taken down and the approved roof line needs to be put back up. This house is also not the color that we approved. Some of the Tudor details that we went through a lot of effort to get on are not on that house. It has not been a good neighbor, and that roof is not approved material for that house. It's not approved material for a Tudor house. So if they chose to put a roof on without getting approval, and then they have to take it off and bear that expense, that's because they didn't ask. And I think in this particular case, I don't think it's unreasonable to say this house needs to go back to what was an approved material.
Right. So, Michael, we're going to hear from the board, and then you have a chance to rebut.
Sure.
And we'll also hear from the public. Okay, John?
I agree with everything Mark said. The standing seam roof, I mean, you mentioned the neighbor has a standing seam roof. That's on a small accent piece over the porch. That's not the entire roof of the house. In addition to that, the balcony was not approved because of its close proximity to the property line of the neighbor. And that is a standing rule that we've discussed many times with many properties across the village. So it's just a blatant disregard for the decision made by this board.
Okay, Sarah?
My recollection was what was approved from a roofing standpoint was an asphalt shingle, which is not something that I would really go for. But the other thought was if you were not repairing the original slate, there is now evidently a relatively decent imitation slate. And I think that is something that should be looked into.
Peter?
I agree with everything, and particularly egregious of the loss of the sort of pedimented window lintels. They should be restored. The windows are black. The house is white. It's really it's awful, and it's a real insult. And besides the deck, not being approved, you destroyed the roof line. So I mean, I think this is just egregious, and everything should be ripped off and returned to the way we approved it.
So my comments will echo those, and it's interesting that you began your presentation by saying they were seeking to retain a Tudor-style house, which is what they had, and the end result is anything but. Again, kiddingly, we said this is not your first rodeo. Michael, you've been developing properties in Southampton for a number of years. You know the procedure. You don't always agree with it, but you know the procedure. So if there was an issue with the roof, then it was, and I assume you were the one doing the roof, then it was their obligation to come back. And if they had a reasonable argument that it was hardship, that somebody inspected it and it was irreparable, then perhaps this board could have been involved in determining should it be cedar, should it be asphalt. And it's not an unreasonable board, but it's not a determination that they decided it's an emergency. Well, the house has stood there for since 1920, almost 100 years. And yes, maybe the roof was shot, maybe not. We don't know because the owner acted precipitously, unilaterally, and totally against the procedure. And that procedure, as Mark had indicated, was arduous, starting with Jack, who came in and was oblivious to what had to be done. Then Chuck coming in, I forget Chuck's last name, and through at least 3-4 sessions, at which all the things we discussed, the roof, particularly the roof line, and at one point, I mean, if we wanted to spend time here tonight, we're not. I could ask Kat to go back to the videos and hour by hour, minute by minute. I could take you to where Chuck agreed to keeping the slate roof, keeping the roof line, not putting on a second deck, keeping the barn door fronts, keeping the beige stucco. All those things were agreed to without any equivocation. In fact, we even kidded at the end of the meeting how, hey, it's good that we finally got here. Then to have this. So I think there's really, we're willing to listen to arguments, but I don't think there's anything for the board to do other than to deny this application and amendment, and to revert back to the approval, the plan that was approved before. So let me ask if there's any public comment, and then Michael, you can rebut. Any public comment? Okay. All right. Michael, the floor is yours.
Well, I don't know, I've been doing this a long time, and sometimes as a builder, you get caught in the middle, like what people want you to do and what you have to do, and that's a problem, you know? And, you know, we were demoing this house. We didn't need a permit to demo. We were doing interior demoing, and that's not the purview of a building permit. So we were doing that, and we were waiting for our building permit to come. You know, I mean, it's not my house. I did what I was told to do. You know, there are other decks in the area. There are other.
It's all irrelevant. I mean,
It's not irrelevant. We're all due respect, you're wrong
Okay,
that that's irrelevant, because I've been to Supreme Court and the judge has said, if you don't have a deck rule, everybody gets one.
That's fine.
That's what we did on mine.
So here's,
So,
I'll let you go through, but just understand that if the owner feels that he has been wronged, there's a mechanism, it's in Article 78.
Yes.
This board, this village is perfectly prepared to go that route.
Right, absolutely. You're absolutely okay to go that route.
No,
and so-
that would be
No,
the
I
owners,
know, but you
right,
guys could
right.
defend it. I
Right,
mean,
thank
I don't
you.
know, you know, this isn't in a historic zone. This is not, you have issued second-story decks before. So if you give it to Jeff, but you don't give it to Peter, you're being arbitrary and
What
capricious,
you're missing is
period.
but your client, or you, I don't remember who, agreed to build the house without it.
Okay.
We signed off on an agreement to build it without it.
Okay.
And then you built it with it anyway.
That's
which
what
is
we're
against
talking
what was
about
approved.
today.
No, I understand
So this
that,
is not
but-
even actually about whether or not you get a deck. We had very specific reasons
I
to not, and
understand.
we actually, we had very specific reasons. We went through them. The plans did not have a deck on them. After 4 meetings, you agreed, or someone agreed, not to put a deck on the house. They brought plans. Those plans were signed. Those plans were submitted to the village. The house was built with it anyway. That's just willful disrespect and disregard of this board and of the village. So it's not really about who gets or doesn't get a deck. A house was approved, plans were taken to the village, a different house was built. And in this particular case, we also have complaint letters from the neighbors for how disruptive the process has been. And if we go into your argument that they're not gonna use the deck, even if we were gonna consider it, then why are there lights and speakers on it? So that, it doesn't even sound
On the
reason-
second floor?
Yes.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
go into the house, there's big speakers aiming at the neighbor.
Yeah.
So the deck needs to go, we need to go back to the house that was approved. And as for roofing materials on this house, the house is a contributing structure because it was built before 1928 at the time the decision was made according to your own submission.
Mhm.
So we actually did have purview over roofing material. So, and that is an unapproved roofing material on that house and needs to be replaced.
Well, I've
And if
got,
it costs them some money, then you know what? They should have known to go into the process because they knew they were breaking the process when they left the deck on.
right. Well, I mean, there's been a lot of people that have given a lot of good reviews about this house too, that have driven by. This house has been.
That's
a
not an
disaster.
issue here. That is
Oh,
not
I'm
an
not
issue.
about this anymore. You know, it's
The code
not.
of the village says you get plans
So
approved to build
here's-
the house, and
here-
that house has not been
I,
built.
listen, I'm not arguing that point. I mean, I'm
And
not.
therefore, we don't approve it now for the same reasons we didn't approve it then.
Right, so, Michael, so here's where we are. The board is prepared to deny your application in total. I'm not sure, and if I'm not sure what there is other than for you to say
think we
you're gonna
should
come
vote to
back with plans to accept it,
I
but,
think we should vote to deny
so,
the application.
okay. Then, I'll allow you to make that motion, I'm happy to make it, but you can
No,
make it,
please
okay.
go
So I move that we.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, I'm sorry, yes.
I would recommend in this instance that you close for a written determination.
Okay.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay.
This is good.
Thank you, Alice. So then I move that we close for written determination, the application of Charles Falco at 135 Lewis Street to amend prior ARB approval. Do I have a second on that?
To deny the
To
application.
deny the application, right, thank you.
I just have one other question. Are you denying it because of your approval, or are you denying it because I broke a regulation?
No, we're not an enforcement body. You came in with an application to amend a previously approved
Correct.
project. we're voting to deny that application.
Okay.
So, and we're gonna do it through a written decision, and do I have a second on that?
Second.
Okay, second by Mark, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Alice. Okay. So let me put this here. So it's a denial. Okay, Andrew Spreitzer, 85 Hildreth. The applicant is requested to adjourn to May 23rd. I move that we accept the applicant's request to adjourn. Second on that by someone?
Second.
Second by Mark. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Alrighty. Adjourned. Next, Juan Romero and Andrea Grimaldo at 63 Armand Street for a portico.
I have a John McNeil's hand up. I assume that's the applicant.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Okay, I'm gonna bring him in.
He's the architect.
Okay.
John, if you can unmute yourself and put your camera on, that would be great.
Hello.
Hello, please introduce yourself.
How you doing? My name is John McNeil. I'm the architect of record for 63 Armand Street.
Okay, great. John, tell us, there was some discussion last time, and you presumably have made some changes, so tell us what you did.
Yeah, so do you want me to share my screen or do you have everything in front of you?
Yeah, I mean, if you, again, if you can do it easily.
Yeah, go ahead and share.
Yeah, for
go
the
ahead and
public.
share, Yep.
Yeah, so after our last meeting, you had suggested changing the columns to brackets and potentially using a shed roof. After the meeting, I had discussed with my client those options and did a little, research around the area. I did find that there was, especially on Henry Street, a predominant reverse gable portico thing going on. There was a few houses up and down Henry Street that did have that sort of typology. And my clients liked the idea of putting the portico on brackets. So what we came up with is what you see here, which would be a reverse gable on brackets. That by doing the brackets, as mentioned last time, I would have to eliminate the light fixtures that flank the door. But I put one above the door in that case. So those were the changes that we made, and let me know what you think.
So, John, I think it's your turn to start.
I still think a shed like a dormer would look nicer on the house, but it's fine. I mean, I think it's fine. And there are examples in the neighborhood of that similar type of porch overhang, so I think it's fine.
Sarah?
In looking at it, it was discovered that there was an enframement around the door, if I'm not mistaken. Wasn't that?
Yeah.
And I think that if you were to, the door always looked odd to me, sort of mingy. I know that's not an architectural term, but it seemed to have an odd proportion. And I think it was Alex that provided an earlier photograph that showed that there was a door enframement around this. And I think that it would add a lot to the facade of this building if using photographic evidence, you were to reinstall the enfrainment. And I don't think that either a shed dormer or what you proposed would look so odd if it had the original wood enfrainment restored.
When you say enfrainment,
What was on the around the door before the addition was added? I think you can see it in Google Earth.
Yeah, I think Alex was the one that showed us what it originally looked like.
Yes, I believe Alex brought it up in last meeting. Sorry, I didn't mean to overstep you, Alex.
That's all right. Just to say that it appears on the 2018 plans that were submitted to the ARB, and I can show those if that's helpful. But those are in the file, I believe.
And I think that would do a lot to make the whole design make more sense.
Peter?
Yeah, the loss of that door surround, I think was profound, and I don't think you got permission for that either, by the way. So I think the first thing I'm trying to find it so Jeff can see what it looked like.
You know, I understand, but you basically a door, what I would call a door molding.
Yeah, it was a door.
Yeah.
Would you like me to quick pull it up on Google Earth?
Nope, I have it right here, sorry. Here it is. Here, Jeff, this is what it looked like. And it looked just right. It looked
Right.
just right.
It takes.
Oh, that's what it was before?
Yeah.
And
It takes.
They didn't ask permission to take it off either.
It takes the actual door up to the cornice level, and so it all makes sense.
I tell you, you know, in looking at that, I know your client wants to be out of the weather. That looks pretty darn
Looks
good, just the
looks
way
good.
it was.
Just the way it was.
Yeah.
It was perfect.
I mean, that looks so much better than a lonely little door.
Now, what was, yeah, and a shed would be more conducive, not conducive.
Yeah,
but
if
in line.
you were to take the original enfrainment up, it would be very easy to take, if you wanted a protection from the weather or for packages, it'd be very easy to just take the shed from the original door roof, just down from the roof.
Yeah, so I'm mirroring what you're saying with it, without the enfrainment, with the reverse gable rather than the shed versus nothing at all. It makes that what you have pop out. In fact, I don't know if it's a distortion because of the rendering, or if in fact it does come out longer than, maybe there's a standard, and Peter, you can tell me in architecture whether it has to come out beyond the first step or not, but it just seems like it's just jutting out.
Yeah. No,
Poking out.
I think it sticks out too far. I mean, look at the side elevation.
Yeah.
It sticks out too far.
Yeah, so, so the whole combination makes it look more prominent than seems to be appropriate for such a cute little house. So, John, I think it's, at this point, there's not sufficient consensus to get an approval.
Right.
There have been plenty of suggestions, not all of them match up 100%, but I think the general statement is, or the general theme is to do more with less.
And to restore what was removed. And there's photographic evidence even on Google.
Okay.
I did actually show the woodwork framing around the door, and my client did like that. So I'm sure they would be amenable to adding it back in that respect. So I think it just comes down to shaking out what the portico itself needs to be. So I mean, it seems the lean is still towards a shed roof, if I'm not mistaken. So I mean, I could discuss that with my client and
Okay.
see in a couple weeks.
Great. Thank
Okay,
you.
great.
Thank you
So I move, unless there's a public comment, I move that we accept the applicant's request to adjourn to our next meeting. Second on that, please.
Second.
Okay, second by Sarah. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Okay. All right. John, we'll see you in a couple of weeks. And again, any adjournments should have submissions in the Thursday before the meeting at noontime. Okay? Tamara Carmichael and Todd Grossman, 93 Whites Lane, to amend the prior approval.
Good evening.
Hey there, Rob, tell us who you are, introduce yourself again.
Robert Fischetti, Fernando Fischetti, 320 Hampton Road, for the applicant. I have here with me today Stephen Cinquemani from Jason Thomas Architect, and also Matthew Pfister from White Whale Construction. So this application was before you in January 26th, and you approved a plan, and then Jason Thomas Architect's office was here on April 11th. I was not able to make that meeting. I did go back and watch the meeting, and I understand your concerns that you expressed in that meeting. I discussed those with my client and with the architect and builder. There were actually we adjourned again after that to try to make sure that we really put our heads together and came back to you with something that was well thought out. So you have all of these renderings, but they're just organized a little bit better here. So you can see they show what was approved January 26th, and then what was presented on in April, and then now what we have here before you. There was a lot of balancing to be done here with not only the availability of materials. We're talking availability like, not going for something that's like 16, 20 weeks out. We're not talking about just trying to rush for the summer. It was a matter of, real long timelines. And the cost to drag the project out for that. So in balancing that, and then also balancing the interior space and the usability of it, but also trying to, keep to the integrity of the design and the client's wishes and everything else. So when you come to the garage, what was approved?
Sir, can you not move it?
Oh, I'm sorry. So what was approved on the 26th, there was a departure from that in April, and then we've returned the garage. We returned the mullions are returned. That top window is returned to scale with the mullion, and the garage door is otherwise essentially the same as was approved January 26th. So then we have the pool house, and we have the side facing the street. So the side facing the street, we had come back in April with just a small window on the top. Now, the reason the wraparound was abandoned, there were several reasons. One, it was like an interior design nightmare. It left almost no functional usable space there for cabinets or privacy. I mean, to use window treatments. It was very difficult to work with. We loved the design. It just didn't, I could go on with the list of reasons. I understand completely your sort of disfavor of the April 11, just the window up top. Tried to return some scale to it, put a little bit of style into it, and we have the window that's proposed on the side with a little bit of an overhang. Then we go to, let's see, the side facing the pool. So, well, I'm sorry, going back to the other side, two mullions back in the windows. The side facing the pool, again, the wraparound didn't work out, but we came back in April with 4 doors. We didn't like that. It didn't have the mullions. We returned the mullions and went back to 3 windows/doors, and returned the mullions also to that side, one. I think it has a much more balanced look from the street, next to the garage. The height of those 3 is much closer to what was originally approved January. We couldn't get quite to the 8 feet, but they're 7.5 to try to get that same nice open wall facing the pool. And that's really it. We tried to stick to, what we couldn't do exactly what was approved January 26th, but we tried to really bring the design back to that openness, return the scale, get the garage back to the way it was.
Good. Sarah, it's your turn to start.
The only thing I don't understand is having prescribed a shed roof with a bracket for the previous. In this instance, to me, this makes no sense at all, adding the shed roof with the bracket. I think that it's cleaner without that architectural element.
Without the whole part of the brackets part?
Both.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it faces north. So there's no sun to shade.
Right, I understand. So the client was trying to, we were trying to give a little bit of design and style and take it where it wasn't, just a plain window. If that's a deciding factor, we can.
Is the pool house visible from the street?
I'm sorry?
Is the pool house visible from the street?
It is above the hedge. If you can see, the hedge goes where it's planned to go to, I think it's about 4 or 5 feet. So it's sort of the top of the window is.
Well, I'm sorry, Peter. Go ahead. Go ahead,
You
Peter.
fixed the garage. The garage looks great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Garage looks great. This is one of those cases where it's a small structure, but these little steps are making a big difference. To me, the shed feels heavy. Is the roof vaulted in that floor? In the interior vaulted?
Yes.
I don't know. For me, I would take the shed off and just might consider another little square window above it, symmetry. Or just leave it alone. Either way, I just don't think you need the shed.
Okay.
I think the garage is great. I think the windows facing the pool are great. I just think it's a design detail.
I think the garage looks very nice, and I think the pool house in general looks, to me, much better than it did before with all the windows around the corner. And the shed detail, I mean, I prefer without, but I also believe we can't decide what every little piece of design work that an owner wants for their home. So if they really want it, and they should fight to keep it.
It didn't strike me as anything that if you're walking from the street, it's going to be super offensive or anything like that. I mean, it blends pretty well.
It's not a historic home. If the
Well, then
homeowner is.
To be fair, you do see it from the street because you've got the house and you've got the pool, then you've got these.
Oh, agreed. No, I was just saying, I don't think it's something that stands out as offensive from the street.
The homeowner should have some latitude to design their own home.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm pretty much with John. I agree with you. I think it's an extra unnecessary addition, but not such to the point where I would deny the application on it. Have you looked at what it would look like without the shed?
But we did.
And did it look flat and unfinished? Was that the concern?
Well, I can show you. Because, it's sort of as a last minute thought, obviously it was something that was a little bit of a departure from what we were here with before. So we did put it into a rendering so you can see. Sorry to move you. But that's.
Can you zoom in on that?
Oh, yes.
Chad?
So,
I got it.
Okay. Wait. There you go. Closer. Point to your finger. Yeah, so there it is. There you go. Zoom in.
I mean, I think it looks better, but that's, I wouldn't vote against it for that reason.
Looks way better without it.
Yeah, I think because the garage is so good that the shed
It doesn't
detracts
call for anything,
detracts from it.
my client they liked it, but they're not married to it. They're prepared. They'd rather be able to sort of proceed.
I think
That's why we
having
don't
seen it,
with this.
I was concerned that it was going to look flat.
Right.
But having seen it, I think it actually blends better with a very well executed garage.
It does.
It does, yeah.
Would it be fair to say if they agreed and draw it and just gave us drawings?
Well,
and
here's,
take it
you've
off
got
of
You
the-
your
have the
architecture.
rendering,
Yeah.
and we can back that up with.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Yeah.
perfect.
Approve it
Alice,
tonight.
you good with that? Because you're the architect, so you signed off on that.
They've gone through an arduous
So-
process with this.
Yes,
so-
yeah, they're okay with.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so just on the drawings that you submitted, these, okay? Do you have a copy of that?
Yes, we have everything.
Or the one that's in the file?
Just mark the one that's in the file. And he actually has a rendering without it, so he has a rendering.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So- so-
Yes, yeah, we would just have the plans match.
Yeah, perfect.
Right. So here's what you
Just-
can do.
Just note that the shed's being taken off.
Yeah.
Put that drawing in, let's
Yeah.
let these
Peter,
people
do you
move on.
actually have the file?
I can just submit this if you like, that way.
No, we're gonna do it on
Okay, sure.
this, because this has a seal, and let's see.
And just stamp that drawing in.
So then just
Stamp that rendering.
indicate on this sorry there, Kat. Okay. So
So just
indicate on that
remove
that
and
you're
just
moving
initial
the
it.
shed.
Okay.
And this is the same thing. The shed removed,
Usually on
okay.
this one, it's got the. no, it's not together.
Great.
Okay.
We'll put it in.
Let's make sure that check notes something, please.
Oh, yes.
Thank you, Alice. She keeps us honest, Rob.
Even from afar.
Okay?
Okay, so we both initial that and we'll get the formal plans into you.
Okay, great, thank you.
so much.
Great.
All right, good. So I move, any public comment? Anything else we have to do, Alice? You good? Okay. So I move that we accept the application as submitted and adjusted and marked this evening for Tamara Carmichael and Todd Grossman at 93 White's Lane. May I please have a second on that?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Great.
So,
Thank you, Rob.
only because you said accept, not approve, so that's
Approve.
Approved. Thank you.
important detail.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay,
Let's
thank you very much.
put that in the file.
Go build a pool
Okay,
house.
great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Thanks.
Okay. Next. Lux Construction, 80 Harvest Lane. Second. Okay. Okay. Hello, tell us who you are.
This is Oscar. I present Lux Construction, and this is for 80 Harvest Lane.
Nice to see you in person.
Yeah, yeah. That's
Likewise.
right.
So,
Okay.
If you could put those on the table.
Your name, please, for the record.
Oh, yeah, can you repeat your name? Maybe.
this is Oscar.
Can you spell that?
O is Oscar, Z as zebra. And the last name is Ozcan. So in the last meeting, the diamond pattern window for the entry door, so that was too much. And we take them out, and we had to make a slight adjustment for the size, so all the window panes are matching perfectly throughout the whole house.
All right. So, great, all right, yeah. Located, it's very nice. Any public comment?
No,
Hey.
not on Zoom.
So if you're willing to take yes for an answer, then I will move, you are? Okay, I will move that we approve the application of Lux Construction at 80 Harvest Lane as submitted on May 3rd. Okay, second by Peter, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good
Thank
seeing
you.
you again, as Sarah said, good seeing you in person.
And thank you so much for making the adjustment.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Comments?
And I like it.
Yeah, good,
I
thank
would
you.
hope so. And I hope your client does as well.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, appreciate it. Okay, next, Michael and Nico Roth at 17 Henry Street. Okay, now Sue, introduce yourself, and then I just want to make a statement to give the board some direction.
Yeah, this is CEO Liu. I'm the architect for 17 Henry, and we understand. Oh, sorry.
So, Sue and I bumped into each other at the building department today. She's aware that the village historian has yet to submit the assessment as to whether, the assessment which will be used for us to make a judgment as to granting a demolition. She asked, and could she present tonight to get a feeling of what we thought about her redesign. And I said yes, understanding that we're not going to render a decision this evening, but we can give her some direction, and that even that can be thrown totally upside down if in fact the village historian comes back and the assessment is such that we think that it should be saved as is. Okay?
Okay.
So with that understanding, tell us what you've done, taking into account what the board said last meeting.
Yes, the last meeting, the board expressed the concern over the staircase on the side. What we did is we did a little bit more research on the internet of the catalogs that was
Oh, cool,
Oh,
thanks.
look at that. Wonderful.
That's great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, and you know, we'll
And then-
stamp this and we'll put this, can you turn this into the, as part of the file?
No, I
Okay,
can't.
so we'll submit this into the file.
So there's historic catalog of sports warehouses that happens to have staircase on the side. And then interestingly, some of them actually cantilever out to have windows there. And some of them don't cantilever out, like this one doesn't cantilever out. So what it is showing me that they have a window right on top of the landing instead of going all the way up. So this is what we are proposing now. So instead of a taller window, we are reducing the size. So this window is the same size as that window. And then if you look at the historic first warehouses, and they have a lot of them have a door to go to the basement right underneath the staircase. So we just put a window there. It's a little bit light for the basement.
Well done.
So, comments about CU's adjustment? Changes, I should say.
I think it looks, thank you, CU, for the historical backup. You've done a good job as usual. And I think the design is very nice. And I just want to point something out, sort of outside of this application. And that's that we've been lobbying the trustees to pass model law, 2014 New York State Model Landmarks Law, to adapt it for our municipality. I guess it's being written. You never know. Things take forever to happen around here. But what the most important provision of that model New York Landmarks Law is that in the event of a demolition, the applicant must present replacement design. And I would like to thank you and your client for anticipating that, perhaps inadvertently. But I can tell you it is enormous help, and should the house be determined to be not historic, I am completely comfortable with design, and I applaud you for the effort to accompany the demolition application.
Okay. Yep, thank you.
I would also say, I think it's a bit of a shame that after 4 weeks, we can't get the historical consultant to do her work.
Okay, well, a little constrained on things, and
I don't care.
and
4
you know,
weeks.
and that could be
6 weeks,
the-
actually, since
no,
it
no,
came to Mark and my
it's-
attention.
Well.
Okay, maybe
anyway.
8 weeks.
Okay.
Okay, so
Well,
that's not acceptable. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
we'll try to expedite things from this point, and in the future. So any other comments?
No. I
Okay.
just have one, I think it looks great. The chimney to me kind of looks like a factory, just because it's so tall. Does it have to be that tall? Because it's just sort of hanging off the house back there.
Yeah, a chimney needs to be like
Yes.
2 feet, about 10 feet horizontal projection. I will definitely measure it a little bit more closely
Okay.
to make sure that I'm only 2 feet about the 10-foot horizontal projection.
Great, thank you.
Okay. These are great, aren't they?
It's fabulous.
Yeah.
No, it's what I love.
This can put architects out of business.
Yes, it could.
And it should.
Hey, be careful, he's very
This is why you
sensitive
didn't
about.
need an architect.
Exactly, exactly.
Everyone knew how to do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Honor Bill.
All right, so, we're gonna adjourn this pending the assessment by the village historian. Yeah, go ahead. Yes, Alex.
Hi, I just wanted to, it looked like some of the materials that Lucy provided, I didn't see as part of the digital file, so I just asked that you submit them to the building department if you haven't already.
I believe I sent it in, but I will resend it.
Okay.
Okay.
And what about public comment?
Oh, which drawing is missing?
It looked like you were showing some illustrations of historic homes.
I'll put it in the file.
Oh, the historic one.
Yeah, I didn't see that in the digital submission.
Oh, yeah, I will. And I did not.
Yeah,
selfishly
you can
want- we
date,
selfishly want
yeah,
digital copies
date
of
stamp
your
it.
research.
Any public comment? Kat?
I don't see any online.
No? Okay, so did I already move to adjourn?
I don't
think so.
believe you started to.
I started to. All right, I move that we accept the applicants. Well, in this case, the board will moves to adjourn pending the, awaiting the receipt of the village historian's report. Okay, second by Mark, thank you.
Can we set a deadline?
All in favor? It has to be, because
Aye.
otherwise the house, as you say, goes. Now, Sally said she would get it in this week.
Okay.
Okay. So, all right, thank you, folks.
Thank you, Celia.
Yeah, and the issue was she was looking for some backup on the ownership. So, anyway, let's go to, so this is adjourned, okay. Mariana Koshleva, thank you. And Gregorian I can do. 3 Pheasant Close. So tell us who you are.
My
Now
name
I
is
think.
Fulvio Massi, and I'm representing Koshleva and
okay.
Ortega Gregorian.
Okay, Antoinette, did you get?
Yeah, I need a spelling. Can I get the spelling of your name?
Fulvio is Fulvio, Massi, Massi.
That's exactly as it sounds.
Thank you.
It's good. So Julio, let's see, what's that?
Yeah.
That's what I said.
So in the last session, you had some comments on mainly on this opening on the stair tower, and we changed the dimension from 66 to 50 inches, and we eliminated also the big casing that was framing this opening. Also, we changed the door to a solid door, and La Guardia at the time changed also the frequency of the slats on the driveway gate to reach the 50% transparency. That's about the changes that.
I think, Peter, it's your turn to start.
I think it looks great. I know we asked you to break up the windows, but I'm glad you didn't. It's a sort of a tower
Well,
element.
we changed the,
You
we
made a
took
difference.
out the framing and we do a shingle return.
Yeah, no,
Back
it
to
makes
the
it,
frame.
it makes a difference, and I think it
Yeah.
looks very good.
It's a subtle change.
Yes,
Yeah.
looks very good.
Okay, Mark?
I think it's great, and I actually think the change gives the front door even more presence. I think it's
Yeah,
great.
exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, John?
Thank you.
I still think the tower disrupts the entire design of the house. But of course, I'm the minority.
Well, I will join you in that minority, but I'm not sure it's on this house in this location that I would object. If it was front onto the street, I might think otherwise. Let me just take a look at the site plan.
Anything close could be very.
Right. Yeah. Go ahead, Sarah.
I think the changes you've made are quite good. The idea of reducing the scale and the enfrainment, and I think it's a good design. Thank you. And given the location and the fact that it's set back, hooray.
Okay. So, any public comment?
Not on Zoom.
I'm sorry, no, okay. So I move that we approve the application of Mariana Koshaleva and Gorta Gregorian at 3 Pheasant Close as submitted. I have a second on that from someone?
Second.
By Sarah, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
I know I'm in my, so you can.
Opposed, nay.
Okay, all right. So 4-1, you got that, Antoinette? Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so the next is a new application.
We have the affidavits.
Thank you. Is it Shamik Holdings LLC at 1900 Meadow Lane for an addition.
Put your hand up on one.
I'm sorry, someone is online?
Hand up.
I'm sorry. I missed that. Yes, it's Stephen Wang. Would you like me to let him in?
Let him in.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening. Tell us who you are. Introduce yourself, please.
My name's Stephen Wang, and that's Stephen with the PH and Wang, W-A-N-G, and I'm the architect for this modest addition at 1900 Meadow Lane.
Okay, take us through the elevations, please.
Well, you can drive it, and it's not that many. It's a modest addition of 120 square feet. So if you want to bring that up on the screen.
What, you're doing it or Alex is?
Sorry, can you repeat? Oh, there you go. Thank you. Okay, I think we can go past the cover sheet there and the particulars. If we stop there for a minute. Okay, there's the site plan. It's on Meadow Lane. And the house is very far back on the ocean side. There's a tennis court in front, long driveway. On the opposite side of Meadow Lane, it's very narrow, is the bay. So this sort of goes from the ocean to the bay. It's near on 5 acres. And the area in question is that little square patch on the deck in the top corner. But that will become more obvious once we get to the aerial shots. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so we can go to the next. Okay, presently what's in that area, in that part of the deck, is a hot tub. We wish to remove that and essentially incorporate that to create a corner to the house. It's like a notch, which you'll again see in the photographs. This room is really an extension of the primary bedroom. It's like many uses due to COVID. This would be a exercise yoga room. It's usually that or a study, but certainly that's okay. So I think this is the most telling. So let's look at the photographs first. In the top right is how it looks today, and that round circle is the hot tub. And we just simply want to fill in the corner and carry the ridge line across and use the same siding, shiplap, cedar roof, same windows, same colors, absolutely no change. And where that hot tub is a full basement underneath, so I don't even need to create a foundation. The engineers looked at it and we can just build the walls there. So that the image gives you the best shot of that. But on the left is the existing elevations and the proposed. But again, the image, I think, shows the story. Okay, thank you. Next. Okay, so we just highlighted the area of the work. So the bottom left, you can see that corner, the way it's notched in. So that's pretty straightforward there. And that could be the last diagram, but
That's the last.
okay, very good. So why don't you go back one, if you don't mind, please, sir, and just hold it there, because I think this is the whole story anyway. So again, fairly modest, 120 square feet, filling in the corner, same fenestration, same materials, roofing material, and same colors on that deck as of right. Not visible at all. To the, as I said, no neighbor across the road, and it's on the back anyway. There's quite some distance to the next neighbor to the east, but they can't see it because it's in this nook that's concealed. And then directly to the west is a vacant lot and area right away, and then the house. You can't see this; it's very, very concealed. Also by the landscaping, even if you could see that far. And I pass it over for comments.
Okay, great. Thank you, Stephen. I think it's your turn, Sarah, to start.
Seems to be always my turn. I don't have a problem with it. I've found it amusing that you were carefully removing the deck. And, I think it's a good solution.
Yeah. Peter?
Same, I agree. That's
Okay.
fine.
Mark?
I'm good.
John? Okay, yeah, same here. It's a nice addition. You're keeping the roof line, so, and all the same material. Very hard to argue against it, and we always like approving things. Any public comment?
Not on Zoom.
Okay, so I move that we approve the application, is it Shamick Holdings, that's how I'm pronouncing it, at 1900 Meadow Lane for an addition to the dwelling, as submitted. Second on that? Second by Sarah, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, all. Have a good evening.
Okay, great. Okay, let me get an order here. Now, the next application is Ring of Fire, which is a request to amend a prior approval having to do with landscaping and windows.
Yeah, this is a new application. We received the affidavits and they're in order.
Yes, thank you. Okay. Michael, although we've seen you before, for the record, please introduce yourself.
Michael White, 7 Harvard Drive, Hampton Bays.
Haven't changed a bit.
No, I haven't. Either of you. I gotta turn this way. So when this was first approved, I think there was a misunderstanding, or the plan wasn't clear, because there's 2 trees in question that are on the driveway, and there's a garage if you look on the north side. If we didn't remove those trees, we wouldn't be able to get in the garage. And that's, I think, when Chuck did this, for whatever reason, it wasn't clarified with the way this was done. We do have screening that was in the plan anyway. And I think that was like an oversight. I think that was just an obvious oversight.
Yeah, I'm not sure when I looked through the various files, if in fact the plan that was approved had the tree in the driveway removed. I mean, you couldn't have the tree in the driveway. I think it was caught. I thought the issue might be other trees on the property, and I know the neighbor who has submitted her concern, and I'm sure we'll speak this evening, as to other trees on the property that might have been removed. So, you know, I may be wrong, but I think I was less concerned about the tree in the driveway, because I think that was subsequently was changed.
Losing a tree in a driveway would make logical sense. Yeah, I think that what comes into question is some other trees on the property, I believe.
Right. So.
Is the file here?
Yeah.
'Cause it shouldn't-
So what I was going to suggest, because of that, 'cause this is, it's a little confusing, and here's a plan that says construction set 11/16/21, which shows the trees removed from the driveway. But then this is also submitted on April 6th. I think it would behoove us, the applicant, the neighbors, for one of us, and since I'm suggesting it, I'm also willing to volunteer, to walk the property with whatever the original plan was, to see what trees still exist and what have not. And if it's all according to plan, then there's no issue. You're saying the only trees of concern were the ones in the driveway?
Well, here's what I think we have to clarify, Jeff, is if I'm gonna put evergreens on the property line, and there's a lot of brushy trees, there's a lot of like half-dead cedars, overgrown, shrub, I mean, just, it's all overgrown. You know, are we gonna leave that there, or are we gonna put these trees, because you can't have the same ones, they can't be competing, I mean, they're not gonna get any light. So I have to do one or the other, and the homeowner is fine with whatever you decide. And, you know, we're open to whatever Ms. Genovese wants, but if she wants to have evergreens and have privacy, we can't have those big trees because they're.
I'll
in this-
represent my own thoughts.
Francis, we'll give you a chance. I'm not, Michael, if you can point on the chart on the landscape plan, what you're talking about. We see along the driveway.
There's a lot of.
Evergreen privilege, which I assume are those arborvitae or laurel or.
They're supposed to be, I think they're Leland cypress, I'm pretty sure. Whatever they are, we'll plant, but the problem is, I mean, it would be great if you came and looked at it, because there's all overgrown trees there. And, you know, we can't do both. We got to take one or the other, because some of these trees are huge, and you're not going to be able to even plant evergreens there, because there's huge roots and everything else. And, you know, some of these trees are like 10, 12, 14-inch caliber.
Well, I'm not sure if I'm looking at, what plan do you have there?
I have.
A cat, actually, Michael, put it on the table, and then this way Cat can stand it facing us.
Is there a date?
I'm trying to see if there's a date. I think it says 3/21. No, maybe that's not the last update.
Well, it says 11/16/21 right at the bottom in red, right?
Yes.
11/16/20. Okay. Now, the question is that the one we approved? You know, I think what I'd like to do is with the building department, dig into the file to make sure that we're looking at the right file. I assume this was what was approved, this one that's marked 11/16, but I can't tell you for
I think
sure.
it's the only thing that you could do there for a driveway, but
Well,
even more.
the driveway, again, is, I think, less of an issue than all these trees
Yeah.
over here.
I agree.
Many of which were to be preserved, and I think what the neighbor, and she'll tell us for herself, that some of these trees have in fact been removed. I don't know, like you say, there's a fair amount of brush, there's a fair amount of construction material that makes access difficult, but one of us, and again, I'm the one bringing it up, so I'm happy to volunteer, but if somebody wants to come with me, we can. I think that would be the appropriate thing to do at this stage. Michael, what else? So are there any other changes to what you think is the existing landscape plan?
No, I think this is it.
The three trees in the driveway.
Well, and trying to clarify how we're going to, you know, make this landscape plan work with the, you know, the bigger trees and the brush. And it's right on the property line. You can see where the bigger trees are. They're right basically on the line. So if we could clarify that and it's agreeable, I mean, if we're supposed to take them out, we'll take them out. If we're supposed to put evergreens, we'll put evergreens.
Well, no, I think it was more a matter of they were supposed to stay there.
They're all there. All this stuff is there.
Okay, there's some dispute about that, and so let's not argue what's there or not until we actually go to the site and see it.
I could
So-
stake it out. I could put a line for you.
Okay.
And then we could look at it
We'll
and
do,
see.
we'll
whether-
go out there with the building department,
Okay.
we'll work out something that's
Okay.
suitable for all. How about, there was something else about windows?
Yeah, they were approved with white windows.
Yeah, right.
And they're black.
Yep.
Well, gotta change them.
Well, I'll tell you why that happened. Well, the house next door we built, when I built the original house, well, they were supposed to both be white or black window houses. I believe it's in the deed.
We subdivided.
On
Yeah,
this,
Huh?
Do you have a copy of the
I'll
deed?
have to get it for
this,
you.
this, again,
I subdivided it.
I can go back to, I think again, it was Chuck,
Yes.
who was the architect on this. And I know we went back and forth. There was a lot of discussion, particularly on the driveway, the location of the house. And I know that the windows were approved as white. In fact, I even recall, but I'm willing to go back to the tape.
I saw
if
the
people
tape.
don't believe me, where he said, "Okay, we're going white." So
Yep.
it is what it.
And
What
he had a
it
rendering.
is what
The
it
rendering
isn't.
was with white windows.
So
So,
so
Well,
you know,
I'll talk to the client about that.
yeah, because as of right now,
You want them
on-
painted?
what's that?
You want them painted?
I don't know what the solution might be, but all I can tell you is we're gonna advise the building department not to issue a CO, and this is not just you. On anything that isn't built according to the plan, the approved plan, the building department, is instructed, I mean, it's not, they don't even need us to instruct them. It's just by code, they can't issue a C of O.
I understand.
So the owner's not gonna be able to transfer that house. So,
And by the way, there is an owner to the house. It's not a spec house.
no, owner or not, you know, again, it doesn't matter. So, let's do this. Let me open it to public comment. And I know the public is here. So, Michael, why don't you take a seat? And Francis, if you want to come up and address your concerns, we are here for you.
First off, just,
First off, introduce yourself.
my name is Frances Genovese. I live at 209 Bishop's Lane. I am the person most impacted by the construction of this house.
You're the neighbor to the north.
Okay, and I hope you'll give me the time to.
Oh, yeah, just put it on the.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
I don't understand the looseness of, gee, maybe we have to clarify this plan. Maybe we made a mistake. This plan is dated 11/16/21.
Right.
That is 3 days after they took down the biggest tree. I have dated photographs. Now, if I go back with you to the original plans, I addressed the board many times and wrote to you several times asking that you please consider putting the garage in the front because it impacted no one, because it faced a line of trees on the east. Whereas if they put it on the north side, it was directly into my view. And it was a very narrow space. And Mr. McIntry at the time said it didn't meet the turning radius. Nevertheless, it was done. And now I'm listening to the fact that the garage, we can't make the turn, if we don't take out the trees. The discussion of the trees is moot here. He denuded the land. He took them all down. Not only that, but what the problems he's describing of trees and roots are on my property, some of it, not on his. And he felt that it was his right to bulldoze them. And I have written to you. If you look at these plans, you'll see something very interesting. You see that they change subtly over the time. You gave him your approval on June 28th. Which plan did you approve?
So,
First off, those aren't her plans.
Michael, Gave you a chance to speak.
These plans were given to me by the building department.
Whoa. The building department gave you a set of plans?
Well,
That's illegal, all right? Those are copyrighted plans. We don't know if they're correct.
Oh, come on. Please.
Listen, I've been told 100 times I've asked for plans. They're like, no, they're copyrighted.
So,
You're not helping yourself.
okay, so, ladies and gentlemen, okay, you are to address the board. not each other. Michael, you had a turn. Francis, it's your turn.
Okay. If you look at the plans that dated, you see the trees move slightly onto his property. They move on these plans. They also have indications, which I don't understand, that some trees were to exist, which are on my property. It is not his determination to make. If you look at the photographs that I have the photographs in November with him taking down the tree and very carefully burying. It was a huge stump, very carefully burying. Now, when he got his permit based on what set of plans, I don't know, and some confusion because is he a novice here, or does he have experience in presenting dated landscape plans, which were ambiguous and incomplete anyway, they were vague. But at any rate, June 28th, when you gave him his approval, was contingent that he maintain plotted trees. I checked with the building department. They said plotted trees, they explained the whole thing to me. And so here we are now. He has completely denuded the property. Not only that, but Tin was at the property last week because he's moved 8 feet onto my property with his huge bunch of construction debris, which he removed at that point. So I don't understand, if you give somebody a building permit based on a contingency, they completely ignore it, like maybe putting a deck where they're not supposed to. They completely ignore it, and then it gets ratified. You're ratifying.
We haven't done, so Francis, we haven't done anything. What I want to do is, we've heard this, and are listening. And so I want to walk the property with the plan that was approved. And if trees, and I said this when we voted on it, I said, if trees are removed that were not to have been removed, they will have to be replaced in kind. And in kind, if they were 40-foot trees, in my view, they got to be replaced by 40-foot trees. But I don't, right now, I want to make sure that we're all looking at the approved plan.
Me too.
Okay, and I want to walk the property, and I want to do that with somebody from the building department. And again, if there's any discrepancy from what was approved, Michael understands that he cannot get a CO unless it's approved unless he builds to plan or is otherwise the amendment. So
how can we ascertain which plan was approved?
Actually, the approved plans, we're going to go through the file and pull them from the file, and then we're going to come walk the property. That's a fair question. So I think we'll go through the file, we'll find the final dated approved plan, come to the property or walk the property and see what was agreed to versus what is actual. And if there's a discrepancy, then we'll talk about it.
Well, I believe that this plan was put in place with the full intent to denude, to get extra space.
Well, what we did, I mean, procedures after the meetings, I will host the chair.
I'll come walk.
Okay.
I'll come walk it.
Good, and knock on the door. I'm next door, and I have a file.
No, actually, one of the ones that's one of the things we stacked.
Sure, I took him out of the building.
Which?
I thought you were talking about that.
About 3, one more.
Sorry.
Okay, great. Okay. Thank you. So any other public comment? Michael, you okay with walk the property?
Yes.
The windows, I don't know if painting them is a solution because I don't know if you can paint.
Metal, paint's enamel, right? I don't know. Paint will last. I don't know that. Just don't know.
I think they're vinyl clad.
Even worse.
So why don't you explore the solutions? What I can tell you, Michael, is that we approved white frame.
I understand.
windows,
I understand.
And that's. what we-
It's this, listen, I'm in the middle. I mean, I get told what to do.
Here, Michael,
You-
your name is on there.
Have you ever built a house for someone in the Hamptons?
I
All
don't
right,
do that,
then
but
you
I
know.
know when my name is attached.
Then
to
you-
something.
I
know
don't
when
tell them, I
attach
don't
my
tell them what they
name.
want to hear.
So,
That's what I don't.
Anyway.
Can I just say one final thing? First off, when you see this, I'm gonna put a line down, a string that shows the property. We've never been on her property. When we started this, she insisted that tin come down and we put up a fence. The fence has been there. In fact, tin staked it 2 foot over. So there was no question that
Well,
we
you
went over
still
there.
have the landscaping
Yeah.
markers, then it's not gonna be
Yeah.
a problem.
Absolutely. The other question is, how could you have a final map? Okay, I only gave 4 maps. She's got 4 maps, and she just told you she got them from the building department. How do you
I'm
get,
not
no,
gonna-
seriously,
I'm
that's,
not
that's
gonna
actually a
be-
criminal offense, isn't it? No?
Michael, there's gonna be something. Okay.
It wasn't building plans, it was a landscape. And the building department can share that.
You
They
could,
made
you
a
could
copy.
give out the plan? You could give my plan to her.
They can
Okay.
get, they can submit a FOIL request and they can copy a landscape plan. Yes, they can.
Full size like that. She said she took it out of the file.
No, I did
They're not-
not say that. It was given to
So they
me.
need a full set. Yeah, they have a-
I don't have a full set.
Francis, Victoria.
Listen, I want to clarify something.
Francis,
I want to clarify something. He came on the property, he had the property surveyed as he had to. He immediately removed the survey stakes and told me he would not put them up because he wasn't gonna go for the $1,000. He put up a tiny little fence when I got in touch with his partner. They promised they were gonna put a delineation, they were gonna put a construction fence. Everybody knows what we're dealing with here. He put mounds of sand.
Now we're getting personal.
We're not getting personal. Look at the empirical evidence.
We're getting issues that are not.
I move
What
that
about your free
we
tips you
adjourn,
got?
I move that we adjourn this application to our next meeting to allow. Second on that.
That is what you are. You've been exposed 3 times.
Francis and Michael.
I've only ever.
Closed, you can take it outside.
Francis and Michael, please. We're
We'll come
trying to
back.
resolve this in a
Pictures worth
collegial
1,000
way as
words.
much as possible.
So,
Thank you.
You know, you really have to.
Francis, it's done.
Yeah, but you
Please, you're
have to,
trying
but you've
me.
got
You are
problems here.
trying me, Francis. Francis, I am patient up to a point.
Me too, pal.
Thank you.
All right.
This is why people watch this on TV, they find it entertaining. So I am sorry for losing my patience, everybody, but at times I think it's required. Okay, and so thank you very much, everybody.
Okay.
Okay, so gee, we've done so nicely there. So, all right, let's continue on. We are now at. Well,
You're not up to.
James and-
181 Murray, I believe.
James and Deborah Staley, 181 Murray.
Evening.
Start with Latin. Also, John.
Yeah, and tell us a Latin joke. Actually, when
I can't do it when you're on the spot.
when I
It has to
graduated,
be spontaneous.
when I graduated college, the tradition was to have these take orientation oratory in Latin, but nobody understands Latin these days. So, and the professors would have jokes. But if nobody could understand Latin, what they would do is they would hold up signs and they would laugh.
Oh, I'll have Bob Dylan.
Anyway.
I'm John
Okay, so
Bennett.
John.
Chairman,
And
This is a-
as
this is a new
great
application.
president-
Yes, thank you, new application,
all right,
yes.
affidavits are in order. We have jurisdiction. Go ahead, John.
I'm sorry. So Adam Jordan, it was me as the project architect, and so was Dan Thorpe, all was great to work with both of them. As you've been told, the mailing and posting has already been taken care of. I have individual copies of the renderings, elevations, floor plans, and some surrounding homes, if that would be helpful. Unless you have them already. But I have some extra ones. That makes it a lot easier. So I thought that Dan could discuss the setting
Okay.
first, and then Adam will tell you what we're proposing here, which hopefully you'll find pleasing.
Good evening. Daniel Thorpe with LaGuardia Design Group, landscape architect for the applicant. The site is at 181 Murray Place. It's a corner lot, part of the Murray Place community. I thought what I might do is present some existing condition photos just to show the character of the neighborhood from a landscape point of view, kind of looking at the site from the outside in. So these haven't been submitted, so I'm gonna show them on the camera from above. So the neighborhood itself is largely defined by large, mature privet hedging that forms the perimeter screening for each property. So as you drive down Murray Place, you're literally in almost like a tunnel of privet. The privet is old and tall and dense. Beyond the privet on most of the properties are large old growth shade trees, maple trees, willow trees, London plane trees, like very old established trees. So from a perimeter screening point of view, it's pretty ensconced, the property. So the proposed, and I have some more images here. We took these photos with, my office took these photos with our drone last summer when everything was in full leaf. But there is some existing evergreen as well around the perimeter of the property. Some large spruce trees, arborvitae. So this just gives you an idea of how well the property is screened from the street. So the approach to the site plan there you go. I guess the most major moves from the site design side here, you can see Adam's house kind of splaying out in the building envelope. The existing driveway actually comes in a little further up to the east of Murray Place. So one of the bigger moves we made was to flip the driveway to come in off the north side. And then that driveway would then open up into one of the more open areas of the property so that it wasn't, right now when you pull up, you pull right up on the house. So that also got it away from some neighboring driveways, some opposing driveways, so it's a bit of a safer situation. Winding driveway, parking, entry garden. There is a proposed pool. There are some proposed gardens. There's an existing tennis court that's going to stay in place. The existing trees on the site, we are trying to work around. There aren't many trees in the interior of the site. Most of the vegetation is around the perimeter, but there is a beautiful, large red maple that's quite old that we're going to move from the front of the property because it'll be in the way of our septic system to the back of the property. So we are going to save that one and actually join it with two other fairly large street trees so that it blends kind of back in with the neighborhood. Other than that, that's the site plan, and then Adam can present the house. Okay, thank you, guys.
I'm Adam Jordan, I'm Jordan Architecture. As Dan pointed out, the property itself was a little tricky siding the house because it is somewhat long and rectangular, but we have the 2 front yard setbacks we had to deal with. The property itself is quite cleared at the moment, so we wanted to take advantage of the sweeping views to the north, east, and south. So we positioned the home in the allowable building area, which you can see here, the 2 front yard setbacks, and then our side setback. The existing tennis court, even further sort of position where this house would be. The footprint of the house consists of a few different wings, so that they are positioned and can take advantage of different views out. The house is also forced with a large growing family, so each family member can have sort of their own section. They come together in the public spaces. And then in our presentation that we provided you, we gave some renderings of the exterior of the home as well as the elevations. And the style of the home, I would say, is more transitional. It leans modern. It's traditional forms. We used a mixture of 2-story and single-story gable volumes, very clean, simple detailing. But we used a lot of materials that you see out east. The exterior of the house is clad fully in a mixture of white, yellow, and red cedar that will be allowed to naturally weather over time. The doors themselves would be a metal bronze. And then the remaining material that we would use is a stone skirt that wraps around the house, and then we use on 2 of the fireplaces.
Where did I still leave off? Okay, good.
I think it's very interesting. In fact, it reminds me of like the combination of barn-like structures, which somehow just really work in the landscape out here. Someone recently tried to do something like this and it didn't quite work like this, but I think it's a really cool design. And as big as it is, it doesn't feel like it's overpowering from a scale perspective. My only question is, and the landscaping looks beautiful. I always do a great job. The rear, those 2nd-story windows on the rear of the house. I always have a concern about light pollution or neighboring properties. Do you know what the distance is from like that location to the nearest properties?
Off the top of my head, I don't have an exact dimension. I know the setback is 35 feet.
And then, is it this volume here?
I believe, yes, you're referring to this volume?
That's by the chimney, those 2nd-story windows in the back of the house.
It would be
Right
these.
here. Those windows.
Okay, so that volume is actually facing east, but we do have some windows here
Oh,
facing
okay.
west towards these neighbors.
Those are windows that I'm concerned about.
Oh,
Yeah, so just scaling, I mean, if I take the pool's 50 feet, if I take 50, 100,
So it's considerable.
150 feet,
And that's with landscaping between.
yes, significant hedging and evergreen screening.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, is there anybody? All right. Mark?
I think the house landscaping is gorgeous. I do have a question. Can you tell me, is this is where these big windows are? Is that that's double height space?
Where the
facing
that is not double height, so that's a 2nd story. Yes.
Can you tell me what the lighting is in that 2nd story?
In terms of
Ceiling lighting, how much light will be projected?
it would all be mostly ceiling lighting. I mean, it may have some decorative table lamps or floor lamps, but architecturally it would be LED down lighting.
And there's that same volume of windows face the back side.
There are windows. You can see that on the elevations sheet. So let me see here. I did not number those.
Into the back.
E4 and E6 would be the back.
So,
They will be the ones that were closest to a neighbor. To the
if I
west.
remember correctly, behind the hedge at the back of it is actually a long driveway.
There is.
To the beach house, and then a line of hedges, and then the next house. Is that correct?
You are correct. So Dan actually just brought up the existing condition photos.
Yeah, these are.
This neighbor here.
Find a spot and just leave it, please.
Oh, that's fine. Sorry. I think it's a really handsome house. Normally this amount of glass, but given the size of the lot and actually the way that the public rooms are facing, you're actually facing dead smack into the corner of your own backyard.
Okay. Any public comment? Yeah.
I just think I would like to concur with the fact that you have wonderful materials and.
Yeah.
Great, any public comment? Here, here. Okay, then I will move that we approve the application of James and Decker Valley, 181 Murray Place, a two-story dwelling. By John, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Great, thank you,
Thank you.
gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, how about that?
Thank you.
So now the last project is that at 240 West Prospect Street. And more people in the So affidavits. Alice, you good?
Affidavits are in order.
Good, thank you. Gentlemen, see, introduce yourself, please.
This is Yulu. I'm the architect for 240 West Prospect. And Spring Yu, my associate, is gonna present today.
Hi, my name is Spring Yu. Spring spelled like the season, U-Y-U. I'm going to be presenting for 240 West Prospect Street today. First, we have to, so the drawings that we submitted to the building department did not clearly, accurately represent the current light patterns of the doors that are on the first floor and the rear. So we have some new drawings for you.
So this is a new submission into the file.
Yeah, I have the big copies. These small
Okay.
ones are just for you to look
Okay,
at.
great, so that's fine.
Sorry,
And
these are for you too.
And
It's the same except for the light patterns on the
so let me
doors.
take those, we'll stamp those in. That's it. What was this?
Sorry.
There you go, you can have it on the screen. And then that'll go into the file. Okay, Spring, we'll see you.
Okay, so just to start, I'm looking at the survey here. So we have the current existing house here. We're proposing a bump out in the front of about 8 feet by 18 feet, as well as a 3 foot by 6 foot front entry, little covered porch. And so that's the only changes being made to the footprint. On these small sheets I printed out here, we have the existing facade of the house, the elevations. And so when we look at the front elevation, the existing house basically is a lot of roof. And to accommodate the bump out, we've decided to put in a gable that will break up the roof and will also tie in nicely with this modified front entryway, the front porch. And we think that this will make an improvement to the overall front facade and really tie in the front entryway to the whole roof line as a whole. And then we also have a dormer on the other side, on the opposite side of the main gable. This is for extra light on the second floor. Currently, the second floor only has 2 windows. On the west elevation, on the east elevation, just windows on the opposite side of the house. And so there's really not a lot of light in the second floor, on the second floor at all. And the homeowner who is expanding their family with children, they want, you know, a nicer house for their family to grow up in. So more light in the front, and then there's another window on the west elevation for the second floor. There's some windows changing on the east, on the west and east elevations, and the side entry that's on the current east elevation here is going to be removed and just replaced with a regular window. And then on the rear elevation, we are proposing to replace this middle window here with another set of French doors to match the existing ones. And as well to add a dormer to the second floor, again, for more living space, but also to add in some more light. There's 3 sets of sliding doors to match the ones on the first floor, and some Juliet balconies that protrude 1 foot out from the house. Yes, that's it.
And so the roof line is not changing.
Yeah, the existing roof, like the big gable, is staying exactly the same.
Right.
And the current plate height in the ceiling height in the second floor is only 7 feet. We're not, everything that is being
Because the
added.
diagram shows that it pierces the pyramid wall, but that's pre-existing.
Yes,
Are those skylights facing the front of the house?
there is 1 skylight there, yes.
Is that another second one sort of sticking out from the cable?
Oh, this thingy, the little triangle, that I think that might be from us determining what the pitch is. It just shouldn't be attached to it, I'm sorry.
I can't tell you how unfortunate that skylight is. Would it be possible, I mean, even if you put a shed dormer in for more windows to get more light, to be honest, I just think that you've got sort of an attractive part of the house. The skylight just takes all your focus away from a nice house.
Okay.
So I'd like to figure out somewhere else for that to go.
Okay.
And then there's, you know, seems to be a lot of French doors across the back of the house. So I think you might want to think about a different fenestration pattern for the back of the house. But I think the front of the house minus the skylight is a nice turn.
I agree with Mark. I think the skylight is a bit awkward in the space, given the redesign you're doing. And I definitely agree with the back of the house. The second story, there's just too much glass in the back of the house, and it's a fairly small lot. The neighborhood is full of small lots, and it's a potential light pollution issue for the neighboring homes. The balconies are, you know, doesn't really matter because they're Juliet balconies. So that's not a privacy issue necessarily. But I just think the windows could be an issue. Sarah?
I agree with the comments that have been made, and in fact, I thought that skylight was probably on the existing, so that's definitely a mix on that. I didn't walk the back of the property, so I'm not really aware of the amount of.
I'm sorry.
No, that's all right.
Yeah, I agree with the comments. I think it's generally very good looking. Nice improvement. It's certainly in scale with the neighborhood and the house itself. And I guess we could look at reducing the number of French doors.
Yeah, and I'm in agreement with my fellow board members regarding the skylight and the overuse of French doors on the back. And as a result, you lose a little bit of the character of the expandable cape that soul box that it was by having almost look like the whole French illustrated Greece. They look, now the back looks like sort of French.
Versailles.
Yeah.
Looks like a Mormon
The
city.
petite Trianon.
Changes the character of the
So, yeah,
house.
I think look, by reducing the amount of crystals, you can bring back the character of the expandable cape or soul box. Okay.
I do have a question on the east elevation. Is there a reason why the upper floor window is 1/1 versus 6/1?
Oh, so
Probably it's a
Wait.
mistake.
yeah,
It's an
that's weird.
existing, it's an
That's
existing
an
window.
existing window. That's probably a mistake too.
Yeah,
And it'll
it's a
match the other,
existing
the 6/1.
Yeah, we're gonna change that because they're gonna replace their.
Alright. So let's see if there's any public comment, and then see you in spring if you want.
Okay, so one thing is that this skylight is not existing, but there is a dark bathroom in here that is in here, and I think to have any more dormers on the roof probably gonna be too difficult. So I will converse with my client, maybe we'll live with the dark window, dark bathroom. But would board be okay with it if we
The skylight?
keep the skylight?
Skylight facing the front. First of all, you've got this beautiful little house, and the first thing you do is you get taken away from the house by what's the skylight doing?
Okay.
There are other options. There are other options. Like you could put a tube in the back to bring it in. There's other options. It's not skylight facing.
Okay, we'll think about it. Okay. Then we ask to adjourn. Okay. And then we'll address the doors and we'll change them into windows. Thank you.
I move that we. Now, I have no further applications. And unless it's the entertainment value, which for a few moments it might have been, and I do apologize for this. This board tries to listen to everybody, applicants and the public. And it's vexing and frustrating when in those efforts, it's not accepted in time. And I will share.
Jeff, I'm your beach buddy that you see all the time.
Yes.
But I'm here for two reasons. One, my wife's in the city and I had a night to kill, so that's. But the other thing is, well,
this is what you chose.
the house next to us is going to be built at 73 Pleasant Lane. So I was really trying to see what the process is. And I still have a lot of questions because I don't, it seems like there's a number of steps involved in sort of an initial review of some thoughts before you get to a final review.
We can talk about that on the beach. And you, sir?
My name is Bernard. I
work Oh, okay.
He's a student. I just tell him to come and learn.
Very good.
How many people in your office?
3, we're like UN. All foreigners.
Do you ever sleep?
No, I don't sleep. I work 20%.
I was gonna say, because you have more projects than anybody else.
So,
Alex, Sag Harbor. so like-
Alex, Antoinette, Kat, anything else? Otherwise, I will move that we bring this meeting to a close. Do I have a second on that? Second. All in favor, aye.